Good evening. I'm Meteorologist Robb Ellis. I want to get you updated on what's been happening with the latest severe thunderstorm warning. We do have some storms that have been firing up from the north. Unfortunately, these are going to redevelop over the same areas. This could be an additional flooding concern for areas that do not need it. But I want to get in a little bit closer and talk about what's happening with our severe thunderstorm at the moment. This one has got a pretty significant hail core with it. It is also rotating a little bit. The concern here is that we could see a tornado warning pop off with this. What you're looking at on the left side of your screen, that is a traffic camera that is located right about here. It may actually be a little farther to the north, but I think it's going to end up being in the heavy rain core, maybe not where the center of circulation with that circulating thunderstorm is located. The circulation, if there is one, and the whole storm is rotating a bit, but if we were talking about the possibility of a tornado, it would actually be located right about here. Where you see with that dark spot, that really intense area is where we're likely picking up a little bit of hail. So areas just to the west of Fairmount, you're not only getting a good bit of rain, but likely some hail along with that. There's the hail core that we've been talking about, and I will get in a little bit closer and show you that. I think it's going to pass to the south of that camera, but I may be able to adjust, and you can see the lightning show that's ongoing with that. Let me get in a little bit closer and show you what we're looking at here. We do have a track of the hail that's been continuing pushing to the south and east. That is likely going to continue sweeping to the south and east. That's going to put it into, unfortunately, Madison County, which doesn't need more rain. We know that Anderson is approaching the flood stage. In fact, a record flood event happening right now as we speak in Anderson, and I'll speak more to the river flooding here in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about this hail core that's now set up right along the Grant County, Madison County line. Because of that, there's going to be a good significant hail event happening here. The 3D hail detector is a good way to show you how the hail is aloft, it's suspended, but it is expected to fall out at some point, and that's why we have that severe thunderstorm warning that's in place currently. And you can really make it out here. I mean, we do have significant returns showing up. Let me do a couple of things here. Let me get into what we're looking at with the velocity. I just want to make sure that there's no additional kind of spin with this. We've seen some rotation. There is a pretty significant rotation there. What I look at in this, and I'll remove that so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm looking for is this bright green, bright red, close together. If it's broad circulation, that tends to happen with hailing thunderstorms, supercell thunderstorms. They do need a little bit of rotation to sustain that hail core. However, what I don't want is that to tighten up quite a bit, because once that tightens up, that has an indication that maybe this is lowering towards the ground. We don't want that to happen. Right now, the severe thunderstorm is what is in place, and I just wanted to provide you with an update here on the stream of what's going on with this. It is heading to the south and east. I'm actually going to get a speed on this, so bear with me just one moment while I take a look at what we're looking at for the speed. I'll put some information on the screen for you so that you can see that. The severe thunderstorm warning, that's got the tornado possible wording because it does have that rotation along with it, and we could see ping pong sized hail, ping pong ball sized hail moving to the south and east at about 25 miles per hour. So let me do a couple of things here. Let me broaden the view back a bit. I'm going to reset the radar. There you can see the next thunderstorm that's getting a little bit better organized. That one we'll watch, but this is the one that has, and it's now starting to show that bit of a hook echo. For my folks that are standing by in the production office, again, if we see a tornado warning, we'll immediately stop here, we'll reset, we'll go on air, and then we can double the stream up as well. But this is the one that we're tracking. I am going to put a track on it, southeast at about 25 miles per hour. So here's what we'll do. We'll do here, and the video that you're looking at on the right side is going to be about, I'd say, due east of this location. So we're looking at Union Church, 10 minutes, Summitville, 12 minutes, Cunningham Elementary School, if you're familiar with that area, 22 minutes away, and Beech Grove Church, 25 minutes away. That traffic cam that you're looking at is located right about there. So it's going to stay north of where that area of circulation, that spin would be. It's got a pretty significant hail core with it. There's the little hook signature that we often talk about. You can see it also in the relative velocity. I'll show you that real quick, and then we'll also talk about where we've seen the hail tracks. The circulation actually is getting just a little bit tighter, so it has me concerned. You can see it in the hook echo starting to get a little bit better organized, but also here in the couplet, the couplet, the red and green couplet that we talk about so often. Let me do this. Let me actually go over here to the analysis, and I want to pull up the shear tracks because you're going to be able to see, I believe, because it's had a significant little spin to it. If my data populates here, you should be able to see the track of that storm. There it is right there. Yep, exactly where we expected it to be. And you can see it's also been getting a little bit more intense over time. That's why I decided to get here on the stream to let you know about this. May start to see this intensity increase, and we could see a tornado warning pop off with this for Madison County. Eventually, that's going to put it into Delaware County. If they do issue a tornado warning, Madison is the area that we're most concerned about, and then eventually crossing Interstate 69. South of this location that you're watching right here from the Interstate 69 truck stop there in Alexandria, there's not any other cameras that I can look at, so I can't change that camera any farther to the south. There's a bit of a gap until you get down to Anderson. Just wanted to let you know that and keep that in mind. Here's the hail core. In fact, let me put that into motion because it really gives you an idea of how this storm strengthened quite a bit, and the hail core continues to move to the south and east at about 25 miles per hour. At some point, it is going to cross the interstate. We do think that the tightening of the rotation, again, there's a little bit of rotation, is actually south of that hail core. So the rotation would be right there. I'm going to zoom in a little bit closer just so we can get some streets for you. We're talking about Somerville here, and then probably going to cross over State Road 9. That's the hail core, but again, the circulation is going to be here just east of Duck Creek. Now has moved east of State Road 37. And then when you look at the larger view, I actually think the hail core maybe increased in the intensity just a little bit. And you can actually see it in the 3D. When we look at the 3D and we turn this up, you can see the hail core suspended. The data is actually repopulating here, so we'll watch it. Sometimes the slice gets moved over, but this is a really good way to look at it. There you can see the hook signature. The more intense hail in the center of the storm is why it's showing up so bright here in the center of the storm. But keep in mind, if there is a tornadic signature, it would be down here. There's no tornado warning at the current moment, just a severe thunderstorm warning, and one that does have the tornado possible wording. I'll remove this so you'll be able to see that. Tornado possible with this severe thunderstorm, but it is radar indicated. We do expect the possibility, though, of some inch or maybe inch and a quarter diameter hail. So this would be about the size of a quarter or about the size of maybe a ping pong ball. That is what is moving to the south and east. It does look like in the last scan it might have weakened when it comes to hail just a bit. But keep in mind, this is just north of Anderson. These are the areas that we don't need to see any more additional rain. This storm is developing, and then farther to the north and west, we've got this storm that's developing. This one is likely going to stay in that same axis, and we may see more storms develop behind that. So all of these are going to produce a lot of heavy rain. Real quick, I just want to see if anything is popping up here with this. It's got an interesting little signature right there, so I'm just going to examine what's happening. And go ahead and take me full if you could there, Kyle. Go ahead and take me full just so I can kind of get a better look at some of this. Sometimes it's difficult for me to see on that monitor, but I do like being able to look at that NDOT camera as we go along. So there you see a little bit of spin just south and west of Logansport. Going to have to watch this one too because it looks like now the atmosphere may start to get a little bit more primed for some rotation embedded within this. There is some there, but of course the stronger rotation is actually here, and you can really make it out in this last animation, this last loop. Does appear to be weakening a bit. That is good news. The circulation overall is weakening, and it's going to be traveling south of where we were looking at that truck stop camera just a moment ago. Just one severe thunderstorm warning in place. Let me actually get you the information here. I'll go ahead and put that on the screen for you so you can see it. Severe thunderstorm warning until 1 a.m. After that, let's talk about the river flooding because I do want to mention this while we've got that one severe thunderstorm warning in place. I didn't have a lot of time to talk about this at the 11 o'clock newscast, so I'm going to use this opportunity to talk a lot more about the rivers. The severe thunderstorm warning that we're looking at is right in here. However, the river flood warnings are going to be our biggest concern over the long term. There's a lot of river flood warnings. They include the Mississinewa, the Big Blue, The White River is the main one that we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about. That's the one that has the most significant major flooding at the moment, cresting right about now through Anderson, then eventually heading through Noblesville, down across the city, through downtown, and then to Martinsville and points to the south and west. But we can also talk about the Wabash, which has some minor flooding that's expected. The Whitewater River, a lot of these on the eastern part of our viewing area have crested. The Mississinewa crested at minor flooding. The Whitewater River has crested for the most part. There's a couple of areas downstream that haven't crested yet, but that was at moderate flooding, and then moderate flooding for the Flat Rock River that has now crested as well. So we're going to drop those and not talk about those. The Big Blue River still has major flooding expected and likely will not crest until sometime overnight tonight or tomorrow morning. But it's the White River I want to spend some time talking about. So let's get in a little bit closer here. Now, Muncie for the White River has crested already. That happened earlier in the day today. We saw Rich Nye out reporting on that. Anderson is expected to crest overnight tonight, probably within the next couple of hours or so. And it is rising over what was forecast. So we were expecting it to crest around 24.2. Last I checked, it was at 24.45, somewhere in there, expected to reach 24.8, but they have had to nudge that number up because the river just keeps rising, which means that downstream it may continue to keep rising as well. This is where we're expecting major flooding. We saw that in Muncie. We're now seeing record major flooding here in Anderson. There may not be quite as significant flooding downstream, but we are still expecting moderate flooding here with a crest in Noblesville from the White River at Saturday morning at about 8 a.m. or so, give or take a few hours either side of that. And then once we get a little further downstream, sometime in the afternoon for this arriving into the city, likely reaching moderate flooding, not historic flooding in the city. That was not the case, though, in Anderson. And then for Raymond Street area where the White River crosses Raymond Street, the crest there should be sometime late Saturday evening, and it may not be until Monday before we see this crest in Martinsville. And farther downstream in Spencer along the White River, it may take until Tuesday. So the problem is the storms that we're seeing develop have developed right on cue. We knew that was going to be the case, and about 2 hours from now, I expect the radar to look like this. As we get into 5 or 6 in the morning, it's still going to look like that, maybe with more intensity. This may continue to push a little further to the south by 8 or 9 in the morning, but by that point, a lot of rain will have fallen, and then we'll continue to see that pass through, potentially with more rain on the way back behind it during the afternoon and even into Saturday. So this is a pattern that is just stubborn. It's not going anywhere, and it's going to produce some more rain. As far as how much rain we could see, well, Future Track is estimating as much as 2 to 4 inches of rain. We could see additional higher amounts, and some of the same areas could get more rain as we look to Saturday, even during the morning and afternoon. So we don't need to add any more rain to this, but unfortunately it looks like that is the case. Still tracking the severe thunderstorm warning. There you see it. We've got one here, and the modeling has done a great job of picking that up. I just don't like how much it's rotating. You can see the little appendage here, a little hook signature that's showing up because that storm is rotating and is producing some hail. Farther north and west, we've got another storm that is starting to rotate, this one near Logansport. No warning out with that one just yet, but I have a feeling we'll probably see a severe thunderstorm warning issued for that cell within the next half hour. We'll keep an eye on it, and then more cells back behind that. What I don't want to see is this line continue to form and redevelop and put down a lot of heavy rain in the same location. The modeling was suggesting that. I didn't want to necessarily go against the modeling. I just don't want to see it happen because these are areas that do not need more rain. In a little bit closer, let's do a couple of things here. First of all, you can see, by the way, it looks like they might have increased the intensity of that. They've got the wording out for it, I believe. Let me actually put that on there just to see what they have showing up. Looks like they've got the tornado possible and they've got the considerable tagging. So that's now an increase from where they were. Let me query that because I think it's probably for the hail, the large hail that's expected within this. They've got, the hail size is increased here. So you're looking at 1 3/4 size. So we're talking about maybe golf ball size hail potentially with this. It has increased in intensity just a bit. There's the severe thunderstorm warning. Let me get in a little bit closer and I want to show you a couple of things. First of all, we're going to get in closer. Grab the wrong tool there. Let me just grab that one. Move in here. The way I can tell, and if you follow along with this, the thickness of this outer line around the thunderstorm tells me that they changed the considerable tagging with this. They changed the severity of this warning. But what I want to do is I just want to look at, first of all, let's start with the velocity just to see. Anytime you have a severe thunderstorm like this that is a hail producer, usually those do rotate. In fact, the physics of this require it to rotate in order to be able to get that hail to form. So it's no surprise that this is rotating. The rotation is not as strong as it once was. I was a little concerned that we'd see a tornado warning with this. However, what I want to do is I want to look at the hail that's showing up from our hail tracker. There you can see the core. It was a little bit stronger when you look at the track of this back to the west. In fact, right in the southern part of Grant County, we were concerned about maybe some ping pong to golf ball size hail. Maybe weakening just a little bit, but again, the National Weather Service is increasing the intensity of the warning, probably just to allow for it to maybe do a little bit of cycling as it pushes south and east. We were looking at our traffic camera a little bit earlier. I'll see if I can pull it up here, and then if Kyle maybe wants to double box it, he can. There you see, this is the area that we were talking about just a little bit earlier. Good lightning show going down, and you can make out the rain. Just so you'll understand, we're looking at that camera right about here. The actual storm itself is probably going to pass a little farther to the south from there. Put the reflectivity back on for you. So we're in the rain shield of this, but you can see the hail core is just off to the west. So we may see some hail fall at that location. The rotation of the storm is right in there, and there's a little bit of spin right there. There's the live picture that you're looking at from our NDOT camera right along Interstate 69 near Alexandria. This is the truck stop that's there. We've got a couple of NDOT cameras that show up there. Lightning has been prolific. You can see it happening there on the camera, but I'll put it on in the actual radar just to show it to you. We'll put this into motion. I'll remove that just so it's off the screen. Good bit of lightning. Look at how intense the returns were when this was maybe about 15 minutes or so ago. Southern part of Grant County, look at all that black that shows up in the returns. That's where the hail was likely falling, a good bit of hail actually south and west of Fairmount. Storm may be weakening a bit, but as I mentioned, I think we're going to see more of these storms develop. They are, unfortunately, the direction that they're traveling is exactly the direction that they're forming in. You don't want to see that happen because we get into a training situation. What do I mean by that? It's like a train, the cars of a train, one after the other, and that means that we're going to see some additional heavy rain with this. Let me look at this one real quick just to see if there's any additional rotation that's showing up. Saw a little bit earlier, and I think as we get this, once I move that banner out of the way, yeah, there's a little bit of rotation there. It's certainly not nearly as strong as what we were seeing a bit earlier. Let me actually back that up. This is going to be moving south and east at about 35 miles an hour, maybe 30 miles an hour. I'll do that just so you can see. We're talking about Galveston here, about a half hour away as that line holds together. Farther down the stream, we see the line of the hail detection, the tracks of it. Now there is a little bit of a pulsing to this. Once it continues moving east and moves across Interstate 69, we'll have to see how much that holds together. But then I think you're going to just have round after round of this overnight tonight. Again, I just wanted to hop on the stream here to talk about what's happening with the severe thunderstorm warning and then kind of give you a little bit of an update of what's been happening. There's quite a bit of a hook signature there with that latest scan. Also seeing maybe a little bit of that hail core starting to pop back up. Good bit of lightning. As I mentioned, the camera that we were looking at earlier was located right about there. This is Interstate 69. You're looking at Anderson here. This is all Madison County and then over into Delaware County. So Muncie, you don't have too long before this arrives, and I'll put a track on that too so you can see it. This is moving to the south and east at about 25 miles per hour. So I'm actually going to start from the hail core because I think the hail core is the bigger concern with this cell. Not necessarily the rotation that I was maybe tracking a little bit earlier. So this is going to be Reed Station in about 19 minutes, but let's do a little earlier than that. Westdell Middle School, 15 minutes from now, and Epworth Church about 4 minutes from now. These are the areas where the hail core is likely to impact you. It's going to be raining out ahead of that as well. In fact, I know it's raining right now all along Interstate 69. One of the things I'll do is I'll actually change the traffic camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop that up full for you just so you'll have pretty pictures to look at. I'm going to remove that banner so that's not in the way. And then I'm just going to take a quick look at some of the traffic cameras. We'll go a little farther to the north, probably in some rain. It's going to be Interstate 69, and it should pop up here in just a moment. Yep, there it is. Good bit of rain coming down. So this area farther to the north is definitely under that rain shield on the northeast side of that strong cell, likely north and east, staying north and east of the hail core. But farther to the south, I'll see if I can get into one of the other cameras. This is the same truck stop, and I'm going to see if I can pull up a different camera here. And I apologize for going to black, but that's the best way I can do to change that. And this may actually be a good vantage point. And the reason why here is because you may be able to see, sometimes on the traffic cameras, I can't get a good look at the pavement, but I'm going to be watching the pavement to see if there's any hail that actually falls at that location, because it appears that the hail core may actually continue to be flaring up just a little bit. Probably going to see that hail core stay south of this camera, but it could be pretty close. Keep in mind, we're looking at Madison County right here. Indy would be located right there. The area that we've been watching and talking about with flooding is right about there. In fact, the White River runs right through here. This would be Anderson, and this is the area that's got a lot of flooding ongoing at the moment. I'm glad that this is actually a smaller cell. It's much more compacted, which means that it's going to rain a lot where it is raining underneath this, but it's not a huge area that we're seeing that is dealing with significant aerial flood coverage. A couple of things going to stop me there in my tracks. I'm going to do this off camera because I want to be able to work that part of the radar. I just noticed there was a little appendage hanging down, and I don't like the way that looks on radar, so I'm just going to check and make sure we don't have any additional rotation that's popping up that's on the stronger side. Don't love the way that looks. It does look like it might be intensifying just a little bit in the last scan. Again, the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place, and I'll put the information on the screen for you. There's tornado possible wording within this. Tornado possible because of the rotation with it. We've also got the winds of 60 miles per hour just because it's a thunderstorm, but this is the real reason that the severe thunderstorm warning has been upgraded to now considerable threat because of this hail possibility of maybe ping pong or golf ball size. It may be minor and it may be limited just to a smaller area. In fact, there's a new scan that's just coming in. Good, I like to see that. The rotation doesn't look nearly as strong, but still quite a bit of a hail core. Let me actually go back to our hail product. I'm going to put this back into motion so I can track this at the wall. I'm going to go back to our hail product and show you what we were looking at. So a couple of things here. Yeah, what I'm noticing is, boy, the signature of this hail core, it may actually be hailing out. In other words, we may be seeing the hail fall out of the storm, which is why we're getting a better look at it here. But boy, that is quite a significant amount of hail that's just about to cross Interstate 69. Again, probably going to be very close to or maybe just south of this location that we're tracking. And this is the farthest south I can go because the next camera goes all the way down here to Anderson. So this stretch of Interstate 69 I don't have a good view of. I do have a good view right about in here, but that is about it. In fact, that might be in Grant County. It may not even be that far to the south. I'll take a look here in just a moment if I can get a good idea of exactly where that camera is located. I think it's going to stay north of this area of larger hail. Alexandria, in fact, that's what you see there on the traffic camera. Alexandria, it's probably right along this state road here that we're going to see right at 69 at State Road 28 is probably where the hail core is going to go right over. I don't see anything falling currently other than rain at that location, and it will likely be a little bit of light rain in the beginning before it turns to heavier rain. This is the area where the hail, unfortunately, is going to move right over that interchange. So right at State Road 28, just east of Alexandria, basically the Alexandria exit here. There's Reed Station. I mentioned that a little bit earlier. Radar is not only picking up a good bit of hail with this. Boy, look at that signature. Anytime, Sean Ash will say this every now and then, anytime we get into a situation where we see this type of radar return, this black spot that shows up, it's one of two things. It's either a debris ball, which in this case it is not because we don't have a strong couplet signature, we don't have a tornadic situation at the moment, or it's hail, and it could be a significant hail core. The other thing I can look at, it's going to be a product that's going to say debris, but I'm going to use it as the correlation coefficient. Yeah. When we look at debris sometimes with tornadoes, you see this kind of spot that shows up, but this is certainly showing up as hail because the hail is all different sizes. There's a pretty significant hailstorm happening right now north and east of Alexandria and about to cross Interstate 69. Again, pretty close to where you're looking at there on your screen on the left side, but enough that it is it's showing up on radar in a way that doesn't often happen with our system that bright. Look at that bright spot, or dark spot, I guess we should call it. You can see how it's intensified too. It's kind of pulsed a little bit. It's not uncommon for storms to do that. What has me a little worried about that is if it continues to pulse, it's certainly possible we could see the rotation pick back up and we could see a little bit of spin with this. I hope that doesn't continue to be the case, that the whole supercell is spinning. You need it to have that spin for the physics to actually allow it to produce hail. You kind of have to have enough of spin to be able to loft the hail within the supercell thunderstorm, but then also have a little bit of exhaust so that it has a place for the rest of the rain to go, and as the cell is spinning and it's rising, a lot of what you're seeing here is that being blown off to the north and east. Meanwhile, the center of circulation of that is a little farther to the south, and if there were to be a tornado develop, we would look for it right in here. It's likely where we're seeing it, and I'll pull it back up again just so you can see it. It's like we were seeing the little bit of the couplet show up. It's weaker than it was just a few minutes ago, maybe 10, 15 minutes or so ago. We're looking at the reds and greens close together. You don't see it there very strong at the moment, but when I back this up, you're going to be able to see exactly, yeah, when it was about right there, that red and green were pretty close together. The other thing I'm starting to notice is we're getting a few of these brighter pixels that are showing up. Let me stop this. Let me actually see if I can get in and do a query on that. I'll see if I can get one of those brighter pixels. Probably about a 50 to 60 mile per hour gust in there too. Yeah, 55, 57 or so. Wouldn't surprise me if there's some gusty winds with that. There's a little bit of noise in here as well, but this is really where we're watching the main event with this thunderstorm. So again, if you're just joining us, I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis. I'm tracking a severe thunderstorm right now that's moving through the northern part of Madison County, about to head into Delaware County. Unfortunately, it looks like it may move very close to Muncie. It's a supercell thunderstorm that's producing fairly large hail, anywhere from ping pong ball size hail to maybe golf ball size hail. There you see kind of the range that we're looking at. This would be about quarter size here. Let me see if I have a indication of hail on there that I can change and put up there. I do not at the moment, but you're looking at about quarter size hail. Once you get into these brighter blues, you're looking at about ping pong ball size. Once you get into this range, into the greens, which thankfully that last scan weakened just a bit. Once you get into those greens, you're looking at close to golf ball size, maybe a little bit larger than that. That is a pretty strong cell. And then also, just to mention, we may have more back behind that. So I don't see too much showing up on the hail detector farther to the west. This one's just kind of out on its own, which has really been a bit of a strange sight. I'll put this into motion and you'll see just how strong that hail core was. Severe thunderstorm warning was issued much farther to the north and west when it was in Howard County. Continuing to the south and east, if you see kind of the direction that's going to head, should bypass Muncie. Unfortunately, it's going to move right over Interstate 69. There's just no way to avoid it. It's got that hail core, and what you're looking at here on the left side of your screen is a truck stop right at Interstate 69, right near the Alexandria exit. I think we are looking southeast from that location, but you know what? I can change it to the other vantage point very quickly and show you a different location. There is going to be a black flicker to the screen. Just pardon that for a moment, and I will see if I can get you a different vantage point. It's one of the shots that we saw a little bit earlier, so it's a different location. The reason I like this one better, look at the bottom right of that other box. You see where it says NW there? It means we're looking north and west, so I can tell we're almost looking directly into the storm. It's why we had a good view of that when it was approaching. We saw a good bit of lightning, and you could still see the lightning ongoing. So again, what we're tracking is a good bit of hail with this storm. There's the hail track. The strongest of the hail that we saw was in the southern part of Grant County a bit earlier. Then also it kind of spiked up a little bit as it moved through the northern part of Madison County. Now it continues pushing south and east. It's about to move into Delaware County, about to cross Interstate 69. Probably will be producing some hail. And again, if you see me just kind of stop for a moment and look over there, it's because I'm looking at my monitor to see if I do see any hail showing up at that location. And then in the 3D, you can really make out some of the hail suspended. It looks like it might be hailing itself out. This is certainly much lower in the atmosphere than maybe what we were dealing with just a little bit earlier, but there's still quite a bit of the hail core in place. And then we've got the heavy rain that goes along with it and the lightning. You can see the lightning show that's happening. There's also a little bit of a hook signature because I said the storm is rotating. It's going to continue moving south and east. Let me readjust this Bear with me one moment. I'm going to reset so I can do a little bit of hand tracking here. And I'm also curious about the next cell that's developing over Logansport currently. Here's what I don't like to see. There's this one, and then there's this one, and then there's this one back behind it. All of these are kind of moving in the same direction towards the previous one, which means that the one that's over Logansport right now is going to move over the same location that just got this thunderstorm. And as this fills in, and we do expect it to fill in, we're going to see more storms back behind that. What I don't want to see is all of this fill in, and then we get into a situation where these locations are picking up 2 to 4 inches of rain. All of that's got to go back into the rivers, and we know that the rivers are exceptionally high, if not record height, especially in Anderson right now. And I will show you some information about Anderson here shortly. Seeing a little bit of redevelopment on the east side of this as well, over maybe northern or eastern parts of Delaware County, just east of Muncie. The severe thunderstorm warning that was out earlier did have the considerable tagging. The considerable tagging just means that the hail was expected to be of 1 3/4 inch in diameter, so about golf ball size hail. Looks like it might have weakened from that just a little bit. I'm going to quickly go through this hail core because I wanted to get to the actual information here. We've had 61 strikes just within the last 15 minutes or so. Still has the considerable tagging with it. It also has the tornado possible tagging, but as of yet, we have not seen a tornado warning pop off with this cell. Wouldn't be surprised if it happens, especially if it does a quick little spin up as it goes through one of its cycles. It's kind of out on its own here. There's the new severe thunderstorm warning. The National Weather Service just trimmed that back just a bit. They tightened it up, but still producing that hail, and it's actually going right across. The hail core is going right across Interstate 69. I think it is south. I think the storm is south where the hail core is of this particular camera that we're looking at here. And it's the only camera I have that is that far to the south. I believe it's about right here. The next camera that I have is about right there. So there's this gap of camera coverage from NDOT all along that long stretch where I can't see what's happening, unfortunately. It's kind of going right in the middle there, so we can't get a good look at it. Very quickly, let me mention this, and Kyle, you can pull this full if you'd like, because I want to talk about river flooding. The areas that we're going to be seeing tonight are going to put down a lot of additional rain. We're already starting to see the first hints of what the computer model was telling us, that we're going to see storms develop, they're going to train over the same areas, and we could be dealing with this from now until 8 o'clock in the morning. We don't want to see that continue to happen, but it looks like it may happen. We've got a lot of rivers that are under flood warnings. The Wabash, not as much of a concern at the moment. The Mississinewa, the Whitewater River, and the Flat Rock River, for the most part, these have all crested. We saw minor flooding in the Mississinewa. We saw moderate flooding in the Flat Rock and the Whitewater, but those have crested. So we're going to do away with those for a moment. The Big Blue River is expected to be major flooding or reach major flood stage sometime over the next day or so. It will likely crest and then begin to go down as all of that drains into the Driftwood River and the Flat Rock River farther south. Driftwood is expected to reach minor flooding. I want to spend some time talking about the White River because the Muncie area has already crested. In other words, all of the rain that fell, mainly in this area, Henry County, Madison County, over to Wayne County and down into Connorsville, Fayette County, that's where the heaviest rain fell. And then it went into the creeks, then it went into the tributaries, then it went into the rivers. And now that heaviest swollen area of rain has started to move downriver. The river is crested as it reached its highest point in Muncie, and now it's cresting literally right now in Anderson. It is now at a record level. The record was 23.6. When I checked it as of about an hour or so ago, it was at 24.4. Likely going to reach 24.8. That is the highest it has ever been since records have been kept here in Anderson. Then that area of swollen river will continue to move downstream. It'll reach Noblesville Saturday at 8 a.m. It's when we're expected to crest there, but it's not going to crest at a major flood stage. This will likely crest at moderate flood stage. Still significant, but not as severe. Same thing for 82nd Street. It's going to crest a little bit later, so later in the day as all of that water moves downstream sometime around 2 p.m. likely with moderate flood stage. And then as that continues to push through Indy, down the White River, it'll crest at Raymond Street sometime late Saturday evening, but this time at minor flood stage. So not as much of an impact with that much water farther to the south. Some of the control mechanisms in place for the river as it moves through Indianapolis. And then it picks back up a little bit with some flooding happening expected for Martinsville Monday at 8 a.m. It takes quite a while for it to get down to the south and then maybe even into Spencer by Tuesday morning where we could see that. Modeling has done a really good job. It was doing a terrible job early in the week. Now it's got a pretty good handle, I think, on this pattern. So it's picked up these storm cells that have been developing. It's showing those. It's got that in place. Unfortunately, what that means is if it's doing a pretty good job now, it's probably going to continue doing a pretty good job through 5 a.m. and more rain is going to be here. 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 8 a.m. These same locations are going to deal with heavy rain through at least mid-morning. Then we should get a break. Unfortunately, we pick up more rain as we look into Saturday afternoon with the next line of storms, maybe Saturday morning, but continuing into the afternoon with another batch of thunderstorms. I know it's not what you want to hear, but I just want to make you aware of it. Here's what Future Track is calling for rain, and you'll see the next batch come through. 2 to 4 inches of rain possible. I don't think it's going to be as widespread as what we saw earlier in the week that led to the catastrophic flooding. But we could see some pockets of 2 to 4 inches of rain. It's still not good news because all of that has to get into the rivers and that eventually has to drain downstream. They're already at record levels. We don't need anything else to go in there. We're unfortunately going to do that overnight tonight and into tomorrow. Very quickly, just want to show you what we're seeing here. A couple of things. This severe thunderstorm warning, you can see the considerable outline that we have here. And what I mean by that is there's an outline that looks different from this box. That's because this is the considerable thunderstorm warning for the hail that was associated with that. As this continues into the southern and southwestern part of Delaware County and just north of Henry County here, they have decided to back off of that considerable tagging. Basically, they've got the base severe thunderstorm warning for hail of an inch in diameter or winds over 60 miles per hour, basically meaning it's weakening. So it's a little bit stronger here, not quite as strong as it pushes south and east. And there's still a hail core. You can still make out the area, the little black spots that show up of some hail. And there's also a good bit of lightning just west of Muncie. In fact, it's probably a good bit of a light show and a rumble of thunder that you're hearing right now in Muncie. So if you are tuning in, thank you for watching us and staying safe. We appreciate that. We also just want to let you know what's going on with the storm. Let me show you the velocity. Still a bit of a spin here. Not as strong as it once was, but there is a little minor rotation. And as this moves south and east, by the way, there's a little bit of rotation there as well. Let me actually go back to the reflectivity just to see if we've got a secondary cell that's trying to develop. You know what? We may have a secondary circulation that's trying to develop here. Let me put that into motion. Just want to take a look at that for a moment. Yeah, we've got a second cell that's starting to redevelop here. We're going to have to watch this one. Every now and then what can happen is you can get one cell that weakens, another that becomes more of the dominant cell, and they also may be interacting with each other. We could see, this is one that I think is going to actually bear watching, the way this is going to interact. So we've got one cell there. Would not be surprised if we see an additional severe thunderstorm warning pop up from this one, because we're also starting to see a bit of a hail core. See, once it starts to rotate, if it can get the rotation going, once it does that, it can help to support the hail column that is developing here. This one may be collapsing just a little bit. It's still pretty strong, and that's why they've got the severe thunderstorm warning. Also just noticed a storm report that popped up, so I'm going to query that and see if we can get some information on just how large the hail was. Let me stop this just so it's not flashing on us. See if we can get some information on that. So in Summitville, they had 1.5 inch size hail. So that is about the size of ping pong balls that fell there. This was as of about 20 minutes or so ago. That was estimated by radar from the timing here, but we're talking about right about there. So that was well within that hail core. Yeah, in fact, watch the black spot that shows up right there. Yeah, that's where the storm was the most intense. Now we're starting to see this next area. I wonder if my radar is actually picking that up, the hail of the new core that may be showing up. Yeah, it is starting to show up. Just starting to get one little speck. We'll have to watch the trend of this to see if this becomes the more dominant cell compared to this one. Still a pretty good hail core though that's just on the west side or just moving through west of Muncie. And you'll be able to see it when I put it into motion. We'll do that and we'll move this out of the way. Didn't look like it wanted to go there. There it is. And then watch this one pop up because we're starting to see this area begin to rotate. There's a separate cell that's starting to develop. And I have a feeling what we're going to end up seeing is many more of these pop up. While I've got the hail on, I just want to see if there's any additional hail cores that are showing up. Doesn't look like anything is showing up that's interesting to watch. However, I do want to go and just look at velocity real quick with that cell that's coming down. Yeah, there's a little bit of spin there, not too much. Certainly not what we're seeing here. And then, yeah, this one bears watching. In fact, Kyle, I think we could see a tornado warning pop off with this one soon. There may be some gusty winds here, but this one may become much more of a concern for a tornado warning. We'll watch it. This is east of Muncie, by the way. This is Delaware County. Delaware County. Probably going to stay west and south of Winchester. Probably going to stay north and east of Newcastle. But eventually this may put it in line for Richmond. We'll watch that one. Watch when I put it into motion here. Yeah, there's a little circulation that's right there. I'm sure the National Weather Service is looking at this. They don't see anything that's strong enough just yet for them to issue a tornado warning. But if that does happen, what we'll do is we'll take a quick little pause here so we can reset and go on air, and then we'll be able to live stream both on air as well as on the stream here. The stream gives us a little bit of extra flexibility to track some things. We don't have to worry about cutting into programming. It's exactly what it's good for here. And again, when you have severe thunderstorms like this, moving into an area that's already been rain flooded and approaching historic levels of rivers, we wanted to make sure you were updated. There's an additional stronger thunderstorm to the north and west that has some broad rotation. This will be one that we keep our eye on. Let me show it to you on the regular traditional radar view. There it is. This is just south of Logansport at the moment. This is going to be moving through Kokomo. Unfortunately, it's going to move right through the same location that the previous storm went through. The one behind that is probably going to go through the exact same area as well. I'll actually zoom out just a little bit just to show you what we're looking at here. Yeah, so we've got this cell, now a new cell that's developing. Both of these are moving east-southeast. This one's moving right behind it. It's going to hit the same locations. The ones that are developing behind that are also going to hit the same locations. I'm just going to hang with these because I really am starting to worry about this cell. Let me actually back out and see if the National Weather Service is talking anything about that. Just want to see if they have any additional information that might assist us with what we're seeing here. The emergency manager there, though, did say for Madison County that they got just about an inch of rain from that one cell in Summitville. They did have some brief hail. The lightning was intense. What has me concerned about that is if they got an inch of rain just from that quick cell, if we see this fill in, we could be talking about an additional flash flooding situation that starts to unfold as we approach sunrise tomorrow. And again, what you're looking at on the left side of your screen is just north of that cell that is currently warned. Nothing else showing up when it comes to the concern for that rotating cell, but we do still have the severe thunderstorm warning that is in place. Again, if you're just tuning in, let me go ahead and kind of reset here and show you what we're tracking. What you're looking at on the left side of your screen is a live picture from Interstate 69 as you see some of the lightning ongoing. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis here. The time is 12:46, and we are tracking a series of thunderstorms that have redeveloped in an area where we've seen historic flooding. One, we've got the severe threat, one that includes hail and some rotating thunderstorms right now rolling through Muncie over to Winchester, down to Richmond, and eventually Newcastle. Severe thunderstorm warning in place. Unfortunately, there are more cells that are developing back behind that. Already we've seen hail reports from this of about ping pong size as this moved through Summitville earlier. It also produced about an inch of rain in a very short amount of time just from that one cell as it moved through. This is likely going to produce some pretty heavy rain. And then through the morning, we'll likely see Matt Standridge come in, Lindsay Monroe come in. They're going to be able to watch that carefully. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to pop up one of our cameras, and we're going to do a quick little battery refresh. So I'm going to leave something up there for you to look at while I make sure my battery is going to look good. Can you pull that? Yeah, leave that full for me just a moment, and I'll be right back. All right, and again, if you've been staying with us, thank you. Just wanted to make sure we got a nice fresh battery in there since we were still using the batteries from our 11 o'clock show. It's been a very busy, active pattern. We don't want to lose battery power unexpectedly. So let's get back to what we were talking about. We've got severe thunderstorms that are happening currently. This one now has weakened just a little bit, but it's still producing some hail, still has a little bit of a hook signature here, so it's rotating. We also have an additional cell that's developing just to the east of that. I'll get in and dive in a little bit closer to that just to show you what we're looking at. There is a very intense hail core with this that has continued to pulse as it's pushed to the south. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get in real close and show you where that hail core is located. I'm going to stop the radar just so it's not flashing on us. Here's Muncie. This is Yorktown, which, by the way, has been dealing with that incredible flooding. They've now got a strong thunderstorm rolling through and hail that's happening right along the river, unfortunately, which is likely flooded. Daleville is right here. This is Interstate 69. The closest other camera I have is just around the bend here, so I can't give you a good look at this. This is where the tip of the thunderstorm would be that has the rotation with it. The hail core is here, and then we're actually seeing a different hail core that's redeveloping. What I can show you in the radar is I can actually bring up the velocity, and you'll be able to see there's the rotation. It's right in there where the green and red are in the right configuration here. However, there's another bit of rotation that's happening right here. I'm actually going to grab that tool and just move the map. It's much broader in the rotation than it was earlier. I'm going to put that in. Yeah, it tightened up a bit around Selma and then continued pushing south and east. So I'm encouraged by that, but what I'm not encouraged by, and I'm going to switch over to the hail product, is what we're seeing with hail. Boy, it's been a prolific hail producer. Right now we have the hail core just south of Yorktown, very close to Progress. This is going to be State Road 67, probably going to pass right over State Road 3. Here's Springport, here's Middletown. I think Daleville, you're okay. I think Middletown, you're okay. The hail core is going to go right over Progress where it's listed on the map. New Burlington, probably going to stay south of you. This is moving to the south and east at about 25 miles per hour. I'll put a track on this just so you can see, and I'm going to do it from the edge of the hail core. So there's 25 miles per hour. We'll see if we can get some locations here. I'll move that out of the way so you can see it. So Progress 5 minutes from now. Tabor Church 7 minutes from now. This is for the hail core that we're tracking right now. Springport 18 minutes from now. Rogersville maybe about 1:15 or so. And Buck Creek Church we're looking at about 27 minutes. That's for the leading edge of the hail core. It may cycle or pulse just a little bit. And when you see this show up in our hail product, you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to move the map so you can get a better idea. Watch the cell kind of pulse a little bit as it moves through, yeah. And it may actually be on the uptick at the moment. Thankfully, this stayed south and west for the most part of Muncie. Muncie, you've got heavy rain happening. You've got the light show. You've probably been awakened and wondering what's going on. It's probably why you've joined us here on the stream. But the hail core is actually just between Daleville and Muncie. Let me get in a little bit closer. I think we had... Let me get right in there just to see what else pops up. Yeah, Yorktown is what I wanted to see that showed up. And of course, we talked about Yorktown earlier in our newscast tonight because of the additional flooding that's been ongoing there. Let me back it back out just to show you kind of a wider view. Again, we're looking at the west side of Muncie here down to Yorktown. And then we'll continue to see this push south and east. Probably going to stay south of Blountsville there. And then Newcastle, it's going to stay to your north, but we'll have to see it. Sometimes these will make a little bit of a right turn. That's the hail core that we're looking at. Notice that there's a good shield of rain with this and maybe some additional hail that's forming here. Remember I said there's two areas of spin, one there, one that we're tracking right about there. There's a little bit of that hook signature happening there. There's two of these that are kind of working together. We don't have a severe thunderstorm warning for this one. I was a little concerned earlier. Let me look at the velocity and see if I can see that spin. Yeah, there's a little bit of some broad circulation there. Nothing near what we saw a bit earlier from this one. I actually want to put that in motion just to see. Yeah, there's still some spin, but it's not as strong. So what's going to happen here is I'm going to continue to track this severe thunderstorm warning. I'll stay on the stream as long as I have something severe that's happening. I may also spend a little bit of time talking about the river flooding just because that's ongoing. This appears to be not nearly as strong as it once was, and I know you're wanting to watch that and keep an eye on it, but I don't see quite the intensity of this when it was, say, over into Howard County or even parts of Grant County where we saw. I talked about the pulsing. Yeah, we saw a pulsing of this storm with the hail core. It may continue to do that, and if it does, I'm going to keep watching it. In fact, yeah, there's the next hail scan that just came in. That one, and you can see a little bit of this in the 3D. It does give you a good idea. It's going to move off the screen because of my previous setting, but I can show you this in the 3D, and you can see how the hail core in the atmosphere, and there's an additional hail core over here. It's a little further to the ground though, or closer to the ground I should say, and boy, look at the lightning with that. That's also pretty impressive. No warning out for areas east of this cell. I was kind of thinking that maybe the National Weather Service would do that, but I think it's just below the criteria for them. Certainly this is the strongest cell that we are seeing. There's a new scan come in, I'm just going to wait for that one. Looks about the same. Let me see if I can do this. Let me see if that will take me back to Indy just to get you updated on where we are. And then farther north we go. This cell is going to move over the exact locations that just had this storm cell roll through. This is what we were worried about. What I don't want to see is more of these cells continue to fill in. I'm going to really zoom the map way out. In fact, let me do this. Let me step off camera. I'm going to put a different product on here, a little bit of a different view. And I want you to watch how that line develops. You'll be able to see it. Yeah, we're starting to see this axis that we saw in the computer modeling overnight and earlier today, starting to see that develop. And if this line that's right about here continues to change the axis and re-rains over the same area throughout this morning, through sunrise and then into the early part of the day, we could be looking at some additional flooding that's going to happen in those areas that don't want to see any more flooding. Still have the severe thunderstorm warning that is in place. It does have tornado possible wording with the one that's wrapping up, but the new one is more of the base severe thunderstorm warning. So we've got two that are in place. This is the old one. It's right here. It's now escaped that. There's a new flash flood warning that's just been issued. So that is now, unfortunately, in the area where we've been talking about continued flash flooding. I want to make sure that I get some information on that though, because it's not going to take much to get additional flash flooding. Let me actually do just a different little bit of information here. Okay, I wanted to make sure that they didn't have either the considerable or catastrophic wording with this flooding. I wasn't expecting that to be the case, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't overlook anything. So the new flash flood warning is going to include Delaware and Madison County. That's going to go until 5 a.m. I think the National Weather Service is being a little preemptive here. There's a couple of things that are happening. One, there's a severe thunderstorm that's put down a lot of rain. Where we saw that hail report, we had ping pong size hail. But in addition to that report, we also learned that there was about an inch of rain that fell just as this cell went through. And it was pretty quick moving. Now you've got another cell that's going to move through. It's not going to take much, as saturated as the ground is, as high as the rivers are at these locations. Remember, Muncie just crested earlier in the day today from some historic flooding. Anderson is cresting right now as we speak at the highest level it has ever been. The record was 23.5 feet roughly. They are now at about 24.5 feet and still rising, expected to crest sometime during the overnight. We may see more of these continue, especially as the next severe thunderstorm, or next thunderstorm I should say, begins to push through. In addition to that, you've got the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place. So there's the new flash flood warning. In addition to that, you've got all the river flood warnings, and I want to talk about those. We've got the White River that's our biggest concern. Now the Mississinawa has crested, or at least it did crest. What I hope doesn't happen is all the additional rain that's going to fall tonight and tomorrow doesn't bring that river back up. The Whitewater River has crested. This is all the damage that we saw in Cambridge City and into Connorsville as well. Those have crested. The Flat Rock River has crested for the most part. There's a couple of areas downstream where that's still not the case, but for the most part, these areas have crested. Minor flooding in the Mississinawa, moderate flooding for both the Flat Rock and the Whitewater. Since those are crested, I'm going to get rid of those. The Driftwood River is expected to be moderate flooding at the highest peak along that part of the river. Wabash River, it's going to flood. That's why we've got the flood warning in place, but it's going to be minor flooding. The Big Blue River is expected to be at major flood stage. That will happen sometime over the next day or so, but it's the White River, which is an exceptionally long river and an important river that runs right through the city of Indianapolis and many locations along that. So let's talk about it. Muncie, I said, has crested already. We saw that earlier in the day today. We saw Rich Nye out there over the last 2 days reporting on what's been happening. That has now started to recede. Things are improving, except for the new rain that we're going to add on to that. We don't want to see that river come back up. Anderson is cresting overnight tonight. As I said, it's happening right now. It's at the highest level it has ever been in the history of records for Anderson. It's happening right now. Flooding is in homes at the moment. Noblesville, by 8 a.m. on Saturday, that bubble of water, all of that rain that fell and eventually made its way into the White River, now that bubble of water is traveling downstream. It will likely reach Noblesville at the highest point Saturday at 8 a.m., continue moving downstream at moderate flood stage. That's why we have the red color there. Saturday at 2 p.m., this could be at the 82nd Street Bridge that runs over the White River, very close to Keystone at the crossing. That will be sometime at 2 p.m. Will likely not go over the bridge, will not go over the roadway. It's going to be well below that, but it will be at the moderate flood level. Continues to move downstream through the city. Now, the good news is there have been some flood controls that have happened along the White River as the city of Indianapolis was continued to be built, and as we saw more progress. They've allowed some flood controls that will mitigate some of the flooding here. So we're only expecting minor flooding with the crest sometime Saturday afternoon or evening for Raymond Street. Once that bubble of water that I talked about moves farther to the south, we could see some major flooding happen, I should say some moderate flooding happen for Martinsville here as the White River continues to drain all of the rain that we're going to see. This does not take into account the rain that we're talking about right now, the rain that's falling across the area right at the moment. We've got this cell, then this cell, then this cell, a new flash flood warning, and we're going to continue to see this move through. If this cell, as small as it was, produced an inch of rain in a short amount of time, this one certainly is going to do that. It's got a little bit more aerial coverage, and you can start to see we're starting to fill in some of this. We're probably going to fill in this whole line at some point through the morning, and this may sit here for a bit. So we could certainly add another 2 to 4 inches of rain north of Indianapolis in areas that are at historic flood levels in their rivers. The flooding is only going to get worse in a few spots here if we get that type of rain overnight tonight, especially Anderson for the river flooding. Noblesville, I think you're going to be okay, but we'll have to watch that part very carefully. We don't want to see the additional flooding. Outside of the river flooding, what could happen, especially on the north side here, if we get this to set up over the north side of the city doesn't take as much to flood because there's a lot of pavement, there's a lot of asphalt, a lot of the city is actually paved over. It's impermeable surfaces. All of that rain's got to go somewhere. It drains very easily. It doesn't get absorbed into the soil. So once it makes its way into the creeks and the rivers, they get swollen a lot more quickly because the rain is not absorbing into the surface of the earth. It's not absorbing into the soil here. A couple of areas that we're watching still with some hail. This is going to move right over Springport, now hoping to clear things out a bit in Muncie within the next 15 minutes or so. Winchester, you've got a pretty nasty thunderstorm to your west, but it is not severe at the moment. Lowsonville probably going to take a pretty significant hit here with some heavy rain, maybe some small hail. There's the new scan that just came in, really intensifying this area of hail. Let's go to our hail tracker and look at what we're watching here, because I think we could be looking at this pulsing up again. Yeah, there's a couple of little spots here south of Muncie where we're looking at the hail picking back up. Again, a severe thunderstorm warning in place, but it is the base severe thunderstorm warning, so about an inch to maybe 1.25 inch size hail, and it has a history. So this produced some ping pong size hail farther north and west, and you'll be able to see that in the hail tracks. There it was. We saw the hail report right about here, and then some pretty significant hail when this was back into southern parts of Grant County. It's now across Interstate 69. It's heading probably on the north side of Newcastle, although if you're on the northeast side of Newcastle, you probably have a good chance that this hailstorm is going to hold together. I'm impressed with how well it's holding together. Let's look at the rotation just to make sure there's nothing showing up that could spin up too quickly. It's improved in that regard as well. It's not rotating as strongly. That may also help to maybe collapse that hail column just a little bit. If the storm isn't rotating as quickly or as well as organized, the hail core may not have a chance to sustain itself until we see that hail begin to kind of rain itself out or hail itself out. I actually want to look at I think my, the terminal radar is actually down, I think. I haven't seen it pop up recently. Good bit of lightning with it. Let's actually check out. I know it says debris. Don't think it's debris. I'm just looking at the hail. This is what we call correlation coefficient. We often use it a lot of times to look for debris when we're talking about tornadoes, but you can also see it, use it to see hail cores, and you can see a little bit of that. In fact, something interesting is happening, and since I've got the stream here, I can talk a little bit about it since I have the time. So what's happening is the beam is coming out of Indianapolis. It's pointing towards the storm. It's hitting this hail core, and because a lot of the beam is bouncing back to the radar, you see this weakening. See these little rays that are showing up back behind this? It's almost like a little shadow that's happening of the hail core. So the hail core is kind of casting a shadow, is the best way to describe it in the data farther north and east. It's just an artifact of the data. It's not meteorological. There's nothing happening here that's different. It's just that the hail core is kind of blocking the radar beam from getting any stronger, picking up any returns farther behind that. But it's definitely some hail showing up there. Good chance that we're seeing some large hail at times with this. Springport, definitely going to see some hail. Let me get in closer. Let's get in real close since we're looking just south of Yorktown right now. Progress, we mentioned that earlier, likely was going to see some hail. We are looking at State Road 3 here, probably Springport, going to go right underneath the hail core. At least inch diameter hail is expected. There's the new scan that just came in. And by the way, the hail core may actually be removed just a little bit ahead of this. It takes a few minutes or so for the entire scan to get analyzed to produce this product. So just know that the actual hail core may have advanced a little bit beyond that. And then, as I mentioned, there's another cell that's going to be back behind this that's going to be producing another round of some heavy rain. I'm actually trying to flip through this so I can get to this graphic. This is what I wanted to show you with the next cell. This one producing also some lightning, heavy rain, and maybe a little bit of small hail, although the hail signature here certainly doesn't look as strong as what we're seeing with this one. This has been a very interesting cell that it was all out on its own. It's been relatively compact. There was actually this additional little spin that started to get going here. You can still make it out a little bit. There's a little bit of that turning and twisting motion near Winchester currently, but the only severe thunderstorm warning is located right there. New flash flood warning also has been issued. What I think Matt and Lindsay are going to have to be dealing with through the morning is additional flash flood warnings issued. If this one was just issued for this one cell, and we're expecting more cells to roll through overnight, right now the one west of Kokomo in the western part of Howard County, we may see additional flash flood warnings. The threshold is so low at this point because the ground is saturated, the rivers are already elevated, there's already standing water in a few locations. It's not going to take much to get additional flooding to happen. So the National Weather Service is going to be real diligent, and I don't necessarily want to say trigger happy, but they're going to be quick to pull the trigger on a flash flood warning. I was trying to zoom out because of all the in situ conditions, we call that. So what does it look like right now? What's in place before the storms come through? What are the conditions that are in place? The other thing is that we may see this fill in quite a bit. So it may not just be a cell and then an additional cell and then an additional cell. We may actually see this line start to get a little bit better organized. And unfortunately, we've got a new severe thunderstorm warning just over the state line. As this crosses into Indiana, we may see additional severe thunderstorm warnings for Park County, for Vermilion County, for maybe Tippecanoe County and even into Putnam County. This may all start to completely fill in, not just with the heavy rain, but also with the severe threat. I know that's not good news for my folks that are in the booth right now. Thank you guys for sticking around and tracking this with us. I appreciate it. We just want to make sure we're alerting folks to what's happening when we're talking about historic flooding. I want to go to, let me see if I can get my computer to do this. I want to go to there, talk about the flash flood warning. That's going to go until 5 a.m. That's this new flash flood warning that was just issued because there was additional heavy rain, but also anticipating more rain back behind that, and already about an inch of rain fell with the cell. Another severe thunderstorm warning that's kind of left over with this cell until 1:30, so another 20 minutes or so on that one. And then we talk a lot about the river flood warning. Now, some of you may just be tuning in because either you've been awakened because of the warning or an alert, or maybe the lightning has, the thunder has woken you up. I'm talking about the severe thunderstorm warnings, but I do want to spend some time talking about the river flood warnings. I've covered this a couple of times, but I think it bears repeating, and I really want to dive into it. This is not good news that we have the flash flood warning in an area where record flooding is happening right now. We're talking about Muncie and Anderson. Anderson right now is at the record value. I'm going to pull up a graphic, and I'm just going to leave it on the screen just for a moment. Bear with me while I find it because I think it bears repeating. And then while I bring the graphic up, then I'm going to actually look up from the National Weather Service what the new value is, because that value has probably been updated since the last time I looked at it. So Here's what we're looking at. This is the White River at Anderson. Now, the latest that I had on this graphic was 24.46. The crest was expected to be 24.8 sometime overnight tonight. That we're already surpassed the record of 23.6 feet. So we are at the highest water level that the White River has ever been in the history of Anderson. While you are looking at that, just bear with me and I'm going to see if I can get the new information from the National Weather Service of where the current water level is. So it won't change on the map, but I'll be able to verbally tell you if the river has crested. We are currently still sitting at 24.68. And it's still rising. It's not rising very quickly, but it's still rising. So I think that crest that we're looking at there, that crest of 24.8 may hold. This number is no longer 24.6, it's now 24.68. So getting pretty close to that crest. The last observation before that was 24.7, and then the last one before that was 24.67. So we're seeing the numbers ease their way to the crest, but we're not quite there just yet. This is a historic flood situation for Anderson. They have never seen the water quite this high in that location. Now that I've talked a little bit about that, let me go back to what I was mentioning when it comes to the flooding situation, because we don't just have this location, we have a lot more locations, and all of that water has to go downstream. Now, there's a lot of rivers that we've been spending some time talking about, so let's do a little geography lesson here. The Wabash River, which we hear so much about in the songs, that is farther to the west and likely undergoing some minor flooding. It is at flood stage, or likely will be at flood stage, and there is a flood warning in place, but minor flooding is what we're expecting. The Mississinawa, it looks like there's been a new flash flood warning that's been issued. I'll get some information on that here in just a moment. The Mississinawa has crested, the Whitewater River has crested, the Flat Rock River has crested. This does not assume the new rain that's falling right now, but given where we have been through the evening, I'm going to ignore those for now because they've already crested. Those areas are starting to go down. Where we still see the rivers rising, the Big Blue River, which is expected to be at major flood stage, the Driftwood River, which will likely get to moderate flood stage along the river, not the entire river, but I use the highest value here. And then the White River at major flood stage, right now currently in Anderson, won't be quite as severe all the way down the White River. So this is the White River right here, all the way down through Indy, into Martinsville, down into Spencer, and then points to the south and west. So let's talk about the White River. Now, Muncie crested earlier in the day today. If we add more rain on top of this, which is why the National Weather Service is being diligent about putting out these flash flood warnings in areas that are seeing more rain, that rain still has to drain. It's going to go into an already swollen river. We may see a new crest. It's certainly possible. Anderson, that crest is expected to be, I'd say, within the next hour or two. The numbers were just ever so gently climbing up over the last couple of observations within the last half hour. Just shy of what our forecast crest is going to be of 24.8. The record was 23.6. We've surpassed that by about a foot so far. It's a foot higher than it's ever been. I wanted to make sure I had the correct wording there. Yes, it is a foot higher. It is about a foot higher than it has ever been. All of that water that drains goes downriver, almost like a little bubble, and then it's going to reach Noblesville. Now, it won't be quite as significant. This was major flooding here in Anderson, where we are going to go down to about moderate flooding here, which is why I've changed the color to red. Sometime on Saturday early morning, we're going to see it crest there. So the river's going to keep rising from where it is currently, but it will probably crest sometime on Saturday morning and will reach moderate flooding. That bubble continues to flow downstream, cresting sometime on the 82nd Street gauge at 2 p.m. on Saturday. This is right where that metal bridge is. The green metal bridge goes right over the White River on 82nd Street, right at Keystone at the crossing. That's going to crest sometime around Saturday afternoon. This does not assume the new flooding rain that's falling right now. If we add more into this, it may take longer for this to drain. Then it will flow through the city. Now, the city has a lot of flood control built into it as the river has flooded many times in the past. They've built levees, they've built additional flood controls. That means that the flooding has been eased a little bit because of that. We may only see minor flooding here at Raymond Street, where the river goes under Raymond Street sometime on Saturday evening. Then we may see this pick back up a little bit as it goes through Martinsville, cresting sometime on Monday morning. It may take it Monday morning before we get all of that water through the city and down into the other side of the White River. Here's Future Track. It's doing a great job of picking up these individual cells, which has me worried because look at 2 a.m. Then we're going to see more rain, same areas through 5 a.m., same areas through 9 a.m. Could see some flooding on the north side of Indy. Then we finally get a little bit of push to the system to kick it out of here. Well, that's what we need because we need a dry afternoon. We don't need more rain. Unfortunately, the next system may arrive by Saturday morning and bring more rain in the exact same locations. We cannot catch a break. The pattern is so stubborn that anything develops is following the exact same track. It's stuck that way and it's likely going to stay with us, which means that the first batch will give us some rain overnight, then another one will come back and give us more rain. There could be 2 to 4 additional inches of rain through Friday and maybe even picking up a little bit more on Saturday. The difference in this versus what we saw on Tuesday when we had the flash flooding occurring is that it may be a little more cellular in nature. It's not going to be as widespread. With the stuff that happened on Tuesday, we were talking about 7, 8, 9 counties completely covered with 6 to 10 inches of heavy rainfall. I don't know that it'll be quite as widespread, but any rain at this point is falling into an area that's already saturated, and we don't want to see any of that happen. So wanted to get you a quick little update on what's happening with the flooding because it is historic and it is ongoing. I'm going to reset here just a moment, again, talking about our forecast for these thunderstorms. We have a new severe thunderstorm warning that's just been issued. That one is now going to be in place for Kokomo and down into Tipton, just not quite into Tipton, not quite into Frankfort. There's Tipton just outside of that. This one is likely going to be for the gusty winds because I don't think the hail signature was quite as impressive. They've also got the tornado possible wording with this, so it's going to bear watching. And yes, it does have a little bit of spin with it. So guys, yeah, if you're in the control room, just keep in mind we'll have to watch that one as well. I know we can't catch a break, but this one does have a bit of spin with it and maybe even a little bit stronger than what we were looking at with the previous cell. Okay, so let me reset. There's the new scan that came in. Still a bit of spin. This is just west of Rocheville, southwest of Kokomo. Probably going to stay south of Kokomo. I'm actually going to go to my other computer just because I can do this a little bit more easily from my other computer. We're going to walk through this and I'm going to reset just a little bit because everything's moved a little bit from where I was when I started this stream. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with what we're looking at currently. We've got several cells that are developing, one to the east. We'll talk a little bit about this one. Then we're going to talk a little bit about this one. Also, we have a couple of flash flood warnings. We've got a new warning there. And I hate to say it, but we're also tracking another stronger thunderstorm that's to the west that has a severe thunderstorm warning over the line. But we may continue to see that push east. That one's not moving very much at all. In fact, watch when, let me put that back into motion. Notice that, I'm going to draw this on the map. Notice that here's the line, and there is some movement to it. So it looks like it's maybe pushing south and east, but you also see this redevelopment where they're training north and east. You see these individual little pieces. That means this whole thing is going to sit here, and we're probably going to see an additional flash flood concern begin to move here north and west of Lafayette. I'm going to go through all of these and talk about the hail threat, talk about the flooding threat. We'll talk about where these are all headed, and fortunately, I think as Matt and Lindsay come in, they're going to be inheriting a night where we've had severe weather, where we've had heavy rain, and they've already had a couple of busy mornings here. So still have a severe thunderstorm warning here from this one. This is the one that's been the prolific hail producer. It started right here. It's moved all the way to the south and east, and that's the one that continues producing hail. Now we're starting to see this new cell get developed. It too is starting to show a little bit of rotation here, starting to show that hook signature, and it does have rotation with it. We may also see a hail core start to develop with the rotation that it has. It may follow in this cell's footsteps and have the similar kind of signature with it. I'll show you that one here in just a moment. Let me start with this one. There's actually two pieces to this cell. One little heavier section that now is the reason why the National Weather Service has added the additional flash flood warning here. Let me just click on that just to get you some updated information. So 2 flash flood warnings, both are going to go until 5 a.m. Then there's this additional severe thunderstorm warning, this one for the possibility of some gusty winds and hail of up to about 1 inch in diameter. This one is weakening from where it once was, but it has been prolific in pulsing, weakening a bit, strengthening again, then weakening a bit, then strengthening again. And there's an additional hail core that may be possible here just west of Winchester. This is not moving as quickly as I'd like to see it. It looks like it might have slowed down just a little bit. So that one will bear watching. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about this one because this one is going to keep pushing south and east, and that's going to put it in Hamilton County at some point if it holds together, and we do think it will. There's also, if you'll notice, this cell is pushing south and east, and then you notice this is starting to fill in and maybe lifting north and east. You put all that together and it tells me that this is going to sit here. It also tells me that there's a bit of spin in the atmosphere, and that's likely why we're seeing these rotate quite a bit. Let's go ahead and analyze this. Let's get in first let me start with velocity. That's the first thing I want to look at because there is a little bit of rotation right in there. That's where we're tracking it. I'll put this into motion just so you can see. It has started to pick up in intensity just a little bit. It's still relatively broad. If I see that tighten up at any point, we may see a tornado warning issued for this cell. This is south and west of Kokomo. This is just west of Rushville. This is northeastern part of Carroll County, western part of Tipton County, just outside of Tipton for the severe thunderstorm warning. But if this holds together, and it probably will, it'll continue pushing into Tipton and then eventually into the north side of Hamilton County. There's also a good bit of lightning with this. We've seen prolific lightning makers over the last couple of hours, especially that cell that was back to the east. This one's maybe not quite as prolific as the other one, but there is a good bit of lightning there. Again, it's got the spin. I think we could see the hail core become much more prominent with it. You see the little bright spot that shows up there. If we start to see this turn black, where we really get that intense area of returns and the reflectivity, that's what we call this product, we could see a hail core become a little bit more obvious here. In fact, let me go and look at hail, if hail has been popping up. Yeah, see the hail core doesn't show up here as well as this one. Definitely a couple of hail cores there. And when you look at where this was just maybe a half hour or so ago, you can tell it's a weakening trend. So certainly a weakening trend with that cell. Let's go back to this one. Let's put the reflectivity back on just so you can see what's happening with it. And I also want to get a track on this. So first, we're going to put some information on the screen. They do have the tornado possible wording with it, but also I just want to get a speed on this. Moving southeast at 30, so a little bit faster than perhaps the previous cell that we were looking at, but moving south and east at 30 miles per hour. With that trajectory, here's what I want to do. I actually want to do a little storm track on this. You know what, let me use the other one because it's a little bit wider than a specific point. So I'm going to go from right here, and we're going to go south and east at about 30 miles per hour. It's not moving terribly fast, but we'll put it at about right there. There you go. So we're looking at Michigan Town at 124, Indian Heights at 127, so about 7 minutes from now. Sharpsville at 134, and then once you get to Tipton, which is outside of the warning box technically, but it would probably take it till about 15 till the top of the hour. So 147 is what we're expecting there from the leading edge. The hail core may be a little bit delayed behind that if there is a hail core with it or some gusty winds. It may take that just a little bit longer. What you can tell here in our products, and I'm actually going to move the map to try to explain this. There's the new scan that's coming in. So we'll have to see how that, not picking up any hail cores just at the moment that are any stronger than what they once were. Looks like they may have added the tornado possible wording here. So one of the things that we do in our computer system is we have the different levels of thunderstorm warnings. The National Weather Service has been experimenting with putting some tagging on the severe thunderstorms. This one has a slightly different colored outline to it than say the one that's behind it. And the reason why, and you'll see it when I pop that on right there, you'll see this pop up. See how it changes the color of these warnings? The reason why is that has the tornado possible wording. And the other one that's farther north and west has that as well. Let me see if I can move the map and show you that. Yeah, this one right here, I'm just going to see if I can move it so it's just the only one on the screen. This one has the tornado possible wording as well. It's got a little bit of a different outline to it. We did that so that the meteorologist that's tracking this on the screen can tell without having to query it what it actually looks like. And then you also see the flash flood warnings that are popping up, 2 of them that have popped up to the east. If this moves slow enough, and it is moving at about 30 miles per hour, not the quickest thunderstorm we've ever seen, that's for sure, we may see additional flash flooding concerns there. And then as we look to the west, we've got a severe thunderstorm warning here. This one also has some tornado possible. Actually, I think it's querying the other one. This one does not have the tornado possible wording, but there's going to be some heavy rain. Probably going to at least see some flood advisories issued here, if not flood warnings. We could see a flash flooding concern begin to evolve here from Lafayette over to Fowler, Benton County. We're looking at Park County down to maybe even Putnam County if it continues to push that far to the south through the morning here. Good bit of lightning here as well. This is probably the most prolific lightning producer we've seen, much more so than this cell that has the severe thunderstorm warning with it. It's not been much of a lightning producer. This one actually was. This one had quite a bit of lightning with it. And look at the hook signature. You can see it right there. It's why they've put out that tornado possible wording, because of the hook signature with it. They've also extended a new severe thunderstorm warning for this part of the cell. So there's kind of some interesting things happening with the dynamics for tonight. One that we don't often get during the overnight. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to get on the stream here and explain to you what's been happening. Also, I just know that people are going to be waking up because of all of the thunder and lightning. And with the flooding concerns and the severe weather we've dealt with over the past several days, you want to kind of keep your mind at ease. We know you want to be updated on what's happening, and that's why we can use the stream so that we don't interrupt the programming that's happening right now. This one's one that bears watching. Let me show you the, let me see if we can look at the velocity with this one again, and maybe I'll get in real close and show you. Doesn't concern me at the moment. Still something I want to watch, but it doesn't look like we'd get an imminent tornado warning out of this. There is a little bit of a bright spot here just north and east of Newcastle, but I don't see a very well-defined couplet. Lowsonville as well. There's also a little bit of minor spin and maybe some gusty winds north and east of Lowsonville, but not anything necessarily to write home about. Let me see if I can go back. This is the additional cell, so I jumped a little bit, pardon the jump, but I did want to go back to this cell. This is the one that's pushing now south and east at about 30 miles per hour. Here's Kokomo, here's Frankfort. Indy is going to be down here. Just moving the map so you can see it. Also has the tornado possible wording because it is rotating. It's been interesting to see these storms rotate during the overnight like this. May actually be a good thing that it's overnight, because if we had the heating of the day, it may provide just a little bit more vigor to these storms. But unfortunately at night you can't see very much, so it's not like we'll have any good reports if this does touch down. We don't really get good eyes on it when it's in those locations. I was just trying to think if I had any cameras in that area. I know there's one near Kokomo that I might be able to look at, and then eventually here on Interstate 70. Keep in mind that they're trying to work on this part of Interstate 70. I think that camera is still out. Now, pardon me just a moment, because this may go to black, and if it does, I'll explain exactly what we're looking at. Yeah, so this is Interstate 70 at Centerville, where they've been trying to fix the road, where the road washed out from the previous flooding. They hope to have that open today. When I say today, I mean Friday. But given the rain that's coming our way and potentially another round of some flooding, we'll see if that holds true. While we're holding on this other view, this was the earlier rest area that we were looking at in Alexandria. First, I want to see, and pardon again, there's going to be a little bit of a black flash here as I change the camera. This is going to go up to Kokomo. The camera will come in here and you'll be able to see it. This is the area that we're tracking where that heavy rain is coming through. Again, it's a little bit of a spotty frame rate. So what I'm also going to do is maybe see if I can find a different location that's a little bit closer to where the heaviest rain is falling right now. I'm just going to zoom back out again and see if there's anything new that's popping up. Yeah, I think we're just going to have to go up Interstate 65 at this point and see if we can get our eyes on anything that's happening up towards Lafayette. Again, there's going to be a little bit of a flash here, so I'm going to apologize for that, but I like to get eyes on what's happening on the ground. And yeah, it looks like folks are pulling over here with the heaviest of the rain. This is up near Lafayette. This is Interstate 65, right at State Road 25. You can see some emergency vehicles there, and it looks like a good number of folks are pulling over as well. Of course, it's also the overnight, and I know that many of the truck drivers do like to just pull over at certain times of the night, especially if they know that that weather is going to be moving through. Let me try a different camera. Again, there's going to be a little flash. Bear with me. Again, you're overnight. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis. We're watching what's happening with our ongoing flood situation. Try a different camera here. Again, pardon the flash. Should ring back up here in just a moment. There you go. So you're looking at Interstate 65. This is also right at State Road 26. near Lafayette, and you can of course see the ongoing lightning storm that's off in the distance. We are looking north, so we are looking right into the storm that's on the way. I'm actually going to leave the camera on that, and we'll come back to it and keep an eye on it. So the area that we're tracking is right about here. This is where that camera is located. So right at State Road 26. Yep, right in here. That is where the camera is located. So it may be in a little bit of a lull, but we expect much more rain as we get through the evening. Couple of bits of information here. So as we look at a larger view, I'm just going to reset again one more time. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis. You are watching overnight coverage here on our stream. It is now approaching 1:30. We're at 1:28 and some change. I'm watching several things. One, we've got some severe thunderstorms that are happening. Here's one with an additional little batch that's headed into the north of it, and then another severe thunderstorm here, then another severe thunderstorm that's just over the state line. We've got storms filling in. There's also a good bit of heavy rain here that's filling in, and we're dealing with historic flooding. Anderson right now, the river, the White River, is at the highest level it has ever been in the history of Anderson. Right now, as we speak, the river will likely crest within the next half hour to an hour or so. On top of that, we're adding this rain from these additional thunderstorms, and we've got new flash flood warnings that have been issued. We're now up to 2 flash flood warnings. Will we get into another scenario like we had 2-3 days ago with the widespread flash flood warnings and flash flood emergencies? I don't think so, but given how saturated the ground is and the swollen rivers, the threshold is much lower than it was before because we already have a lot of rain that's been falling. We'll watch the severe thunderstorms. They're also rotating just a little bit. We've seen several of these storms rotate. In fact, this cell as well as this cell had some tornado possible wording with it. They're starting to show that little hook signature. You see it in both of these cells here, giving us a good indication that they are rotating. It's been very broad rotation. We haven't seen anything tighten up just yet to produce a tornado warning from the National Weather Service, but that is certainly what I'm watching, and it's why I'm here on the stream, and it's why I've kept my production staff so we can bring you this coverage just in the event that we do have a tornado warning. We have to jump on 13 and show folks exactly what's happening with that. There's a good bit of lightning. There's some hail with this. It's not as strong as it once was. In fact, the tornado possible wording has been dropped from this part of the warning. And for this part of the warning, it's just the base thunderstorm. This is going to cross Interstate 70. This is going to move right through from Newcastle, east of Newcastle, over into Richmond. Unfortunately, this is going to impact Cambridge City. This is going to impact maybe stay north of Connorsville, but these are areas that don't want to see another thunderstorm produce some heavy rain. This particular cell, when it was north and west, produced ping-pong-sized hail and also about an inch of rain in just a short amount of time it took for the cell to move through. So there's a lot of moisture still left in the atmosphere, and even just this one small cell produced an inch of rain. Now you're going to see another cell move through that also may produce another inch of rain. We could also see this fill in as we're starting to see to the north with more rain that's probably going to fall for a good bit of the morning. When Matt Standridge comes in the morning and Lindsay gets here in the morning, they're going to inherit a very active pattern, and they're going to be with you all morning on the stream as well as on the newscast starting at 4 o'clock to make sure that we keep an eye on what's happening with the storm. Behind that, there's an additional area of some very heavy rain. I'm getting a little more concerned that we could see some flash flood warnings issued here, Benton County, down to maybe Fountain County as well, because this cell has been staying here, staying put for the last maybe 30 minutes or so. Doesn't have as much motion with it, and then you also have parts of the storm that are trying to lift north and east and parts of the storm that are trying to lift to the south and east. So we'll have to see how that works out through the next couple of hours or so. Again, I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis here in the Weather Center. We're tracking what's going on with these cells. There's also a little bit of what appears to be maybe some spin there. I don't like that the storms have been rotating. Thankfully, we haven't had any tornado warnings so far with this batch of thunderstorms. We did have a tornado warning earlier in the day today near Clinton on the west side of the state. There you see our current warnings that are in place. This is in the eastern part of the state. Here's Indy right here. This is over near Richmond, includes Newcastle, where we do have a severe thunderstorm warning just on the east side of town. It's probably going to stay east of Newcastle, but it includes also Winchester. There's really one cell that's rotating there. It's got a little bit of a hook signature, but also another cell that's had some hail along with it, as well as some heavy rain. And because of that heavy rain, you see the 2 new flash flood warnings that have been issued. As I move more to north central parts of central Indiana, we now have another severe thunderstorm warning. I'm just going to move that off the edge of the map so that flash flood warning doesn't pop up. There we go. This also has the tornado possible wording. This severe thunderstorm warning is going to go until 2 a.m. It's heading south and east. This is Kokomo. Here's Frankfort. Tipton would be located about right there, and there's the new scan that's coming in. Also showing some minor rotation, although not terribly strong at the moment. One thing I haven't done is check back in with that rotation recently, so we'll do that right now. Just go to the velocity. It's a good way to decide whether or not we have. There is a little bit of tight rotation that's popped back up, so let's get in close with this. We're talking about now south of Rushville, maybe northwest of Kempton. What I'm tracking is this. Now, we show you these storm relative velocities, but now that I have a little bit of time here, we're not in a tornado warning, and kind of explain what you're looking at. New scans coming in, it's weaker than it was. Like to see that. This air is pushing towards the radar, and when it does that, it actually shows up as this green color. Everything that's toward the radar is going to be blue to green. It starts out on this side, and as it gets stronger and stronger and stronger, if we see it go into this kind of white into blue, that's when we're talking about 60, 80 mile per hour winds. Not seeing that. This is on the lower end. We're talking maybe 10 or 15 miles per hour toward the radar. Right next to it are some strong winds away from the radar. We're talking kind of in this color range here. If we get into this stronger part, we know we've got some strong winds, but it's the orientation of those winds. This area is going away from the radar. This area is going toward the radar. That implies a circulation. It's very broad. It's likely going to stay very broad. If you go back a bit, and I will do that on the radar here, just off camera. If you go back a bit, you'll see how it tightened up. The colors will brighten up just a little bit. Yep, right there. And then we'll go back even more. It's a little bit brighter the farther back in time we go, meaning that the cell is probably weakening just a little bit. It's also broad rotation. What we look for when we see if there's going to be a tornado warning, what the National Weather Service is looking at is, does this tighten up? Does it tighten up and does it get stronger? If that's the case, then we may see a tornado warning issued with this, but we're currently not seeing that. One of the main reasons why I'm still on this tracking overnight is because we do have severe weather and we want to make you aware of it, but we're seeing additional rainfall into a historic flooding situation that's happened over the last several days or so. On Tuesday, we had so much rain here that now all the flash flood warnings from that system have been dropped, and it's now turned into all of these river flood warnings. Almost every major river in central Indiana is under a river flood warning. Now we're starting to see some of the flash flood warnings pop back up, and we'll probably see more of these. We've got 2 right now. I have a feeling by the time we get another hour, maybe 2 hours into this, we're going to see 4 or 5 or 6 of these pop back up. I just think it's going to be, the threshold is so low. And we've got all these rivers. Now, a little bit of a geography lesson. We're all having to learn which rivers are what. When we talk about the Mississippi River, where is that? Well, it's up here in the northern part of Delaware County. It has crested. That's good news. We've also been spending a lot of time talking about the Whitewater River. This is where we were looking at Connorsville flooding and then eventually taking that right into the Miami River. Flat Rock, Driftwood, and the Big Blue River here, which kind of all come together. These two have had some flooding concerns, but not as much as the White River. It's the White River where we've had the biggest concerns in the short term. Now, the Mississippi, the Whitewater River, and the Flat Rock River have all crested for the most part. There's a couple of areas downstream where the crest is just now moving through, but for all intents and purposes, those have crested. I'm going to drop those because we're not going to talk about them. The Big Blue has now reached major flooding, and it's still rising. There's some areas it's starting to recede, but we still think there's a couple of areas here where we could see the crest sometime today. Same with the Driftwood River, although it's only moderate flooding for the Driftwood River. The White River is where we have major flooding occurring. Now, we had major flooding occurring in Muncie, and we still do, but the river has at least crested, and it may be starting to recede. Anderson is cresting right now. As of the last observation, this was at 24.67 feet. The record, the highest it has ever been, was 23.6 feet. We've already surpassed that by a foot. The entire time records have been kept in Anderson, we are now over that amount. This is the type of historic flooding that we're talking about here. Major flooding, it's why I color-coded that in purple, and the crest is essentially happening right now. All of that rain and all of that water that's in the river continues to push downstream. So it's almost like a bubble that's moving downstream. By the time it reaches Noblesville, which will be sometime on Saturday, 8 a.m. Now, the river's just going to keep rising until then, but it will crest sometime early Saturday morning. It may not be quite as drastic in this area, the flooding, I mean. So we're talking about moderate flooding. It's why I've changed the color coding here to red. Major flooding in Anderson, moderate flooding expected in Noblesville. Moderate flooding also expected as this moves into Indianapolis. This will take it probably through Saturday afternoon or evening to reach 82nd Street with the crest. At that point, the river will start to go back down, but then we're looking at 2 p.m. on Saturday afternoon as Matt Standridge makes his way into the studio for a very long shift that he's expecting for today. Raymond Street, that water will continue to move down White River. By 8 p.m. on Saturday, we're expecting the crest sometime there. The good news here is the White River, as Indianapolis has been developed, there's a lot of flood controls that are in place. So it's mitigating some of the flooding that may be happening upstream by the time this moves through Indianapolis. By the time it gets down into Martinsville, we may have some additional flooding concerns, but that may not be until Monday. Having said all of that and talking about all of this flooding in the White River, this doesn't account for what is falling right now and may fall through the morning here. So we may have to change some of that data, and Future Track is calling for that. It's done a great job of handling the flood warnings that have been in place right now, and it's going to continue to show some rain through 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock this morning. We're likely going to see more flash flood warnings issued on top of the river flood warnings, and then hoping to push that out of here if we can give it a good nudge and get it out by the afternoon. Here's Friday afternoon. I still think we'll see some scattered showers, maybe not quite the coverage that we're seeing right now or expecting to see. Unfortunately, another batch is going to be moving in as we get into Saturday morning, and then maybe even another round as we get into Saturday afternoon. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reset. We're going to look at a couple of things that we've been tracking. There's now a new severe thunderstorm warning that's been issued, includes Tippecanoe County all the way over into the state line just north of Crawfordsville. There's also this severe thunderstorm warning that's south of Kokomo. This one has a slightly different color to the outline. That's the tornado possible wording because that one has been rotating. And then we have this severe thunderstorm warning that's now pushing into Wayne County, which is dealing with also unprecedented flooding and cleanup after the flooding that's ongoing there. People that are trying to dry out their homes after the water level has receded. Now you don't need this slow-moving thunderstorm to bring about an additional inch and maybe an additional inch from this severe thunderstorm. And again, you get the idea here. We're going to be dealing with more rain through this morning, which is exactly the opposite of what we need right now. This one's slow-moving. What I do like to see from this is that it's not as much coverage. If we get more coverage, if this expands aerially, we could have, that's a much more significant scenario. You know, what happened 3 days ago was that we had so much coverage. We were talking 10, 15 counties of heavy rain that was falling. One cell is not good, but it's better than that widespread rain shield that we had. Still some really intense rain that's coming down there. Kind of the same thing with this one. This is a cell that's a little bit smaller in coverage, but we're starting to see maybe a little bit of backfilling here. And you can see that the severe thunderstorm warning that's in place now from really Frankfort over to Lafayette, including Attica, Fowler, Petersburg. This one is a much larger severe thunderstorm warning because of the larger scale that we're seeing with this storm. And then you start to see exactly what I predicted. We start to see some flash flood warnings being issued to the west. I think we may see that happen here north and west of Lafayette if this doesn't move much more quickly. If it just kind of sits in place and holds here through the morning. And Matt, I'm kind of speaking to you, so kind of getting you a little bit updated here. This, I think, may be one area that we could be dealing with flash flooding, really anywhere in the northern part of our viewing area. I think we could see this start to fill back in with more flash flood warnings. We've got 2 in place right now across our viewing area, and then the other one is back to the west here, just over the state line. But it's in an area where I've seen this cell sit here too long, and it's producing so much heavy rain that I think if it doesn't start to move anytime soon, we could see more flash flood warnings issued. Still have the tornado possible wording with one of these cells. It's this one right here. That's why it's showing up. It's kind of illuminated. But that is actually one that's a little bit older. It's the one that's out ahead of this that they've reissued that doesn't have the tornado possible tagging. And of course, we've got the flash flood warning that's in place. We now have the 2 flash flood warnings here from Muncie and then over into Winchester. And then here's the new flash flood warning. I've been saying that as we watch this map, we're going to see more and more of those continue to pop up. on top of the historic flooding. What I want to do, I'm actually going to check in with the National Weather Service to see if the crest has happened at Anderson just yet. Before I do that, I want to put the graphic up that I made earlier that shows you, and Matt, feel free to use this and adjust the information once you get new information in. Lindsay actually brought these in, and I have adjusted them for the White River at Anderson as well as the White River at 82nd Street. But what we're also tracking is just when that crest happens. Now that data there may be outdated. What I'm seeing now, and I'm going to refresh my data just so I can see, the new data is that it is at 24.68. Now the record was 23.6, so we are at least a foot above the record highest that it has ever been there, and maybe the last observation before that was 24.67. Now it's at 24.68. So technically it is still rising at Anderson at a record level. Crest is expected to be 24.8. I think that 24.8 is pretty much right on the money here. I don't think it's going to go much above that, at least given the current circumstances. Now, with more rain that we're going to add into that, unfortunately, that may change the scenario just a little bit if this widespread flooding continues this morning with more and more rain that's expected. So again, let me kind of reset here and show you what we're tracking. We have several severe thunderstorm warnings in place. I'm meteorologist Robb Ellis here. The time is 1:44. We are looking at an ongoing flooding situation when it comes to the rivers in central Indiana. We're also adding to that more rain, more severe thunderstorms, including a couple that are rotating, producing some heavy rain, some gusty winds, as well as some large hail, and then an additional batch of rain back behind that. So one of the biggest concerns here in the short term is how much of this area is going to all fill in. Modeling has been hinting at it. It's been saying that's what's going to happen, and it is unfolding exactly like that. I was kind of in one of those scenarios where I was like, maybe things won't unfold just right, or maybe it'll be in a different scenario, but I got to tell you, the modeling has done a pretty good job here of saying that this is going to fill in. We've got several cells here. Let's start with this one that's moving through Wayne County currently. There is a little bit of rotation with it. We have continued to see that. This cell has been prolific in how long it is held together and how long it's been showing that rotation with a hail core. Minor rotation currently, but let me show you this. Let me go back and put the hail tracks on here. I'll move this out of the way so that you can see it. Now, the hail core is not nearly as strong as it once was, but if I back this up about maybe 2 hours or so, which is a little surprising that I've been on the air here almost 2 hours. I didn't realize that much time had passed. But if I go back about 2 hours or so, watch that hail core as it moves through. This produced some 1.5 inch diameter hail, so about golf ball size hail. When it was in parts of Madison County or southern part of Grant County. This has continued to hold together and has drifted to the south and east. We even had that secondary cell that developed, and we were a little concerned about redeveloping here. They've also expanded the severe thunderstorm warning to include areas to the north. Richmond, not quite, most of the town not quite under the severe thunderstorm warning, especially the south side. But this is what you don't need happening in an area where the flooding is occurring. Then you have this additional cell. Now it's about to escape the severe thunderstorm box. They're probably going to extend that farther to the south and east, probably will include Tipton at that point, and maybe even into Hamilton County. Pretty safe bet with that. These have been holding together. They're producing some gusty winds. This one too has a little bit of the hook signature with it. They've all been rotating, which is why I think the hail core was so prolific a little bit earlier. Switching to the velocity just to check out, there is that broad circulation. We saw it a little bit tighter earlier. Let me actually put that into motion just so you can see it. Yeah, it tightened up right about there. Watch the little bright spot show up. I'll step out of the way so you can see it. But it's still holding together, it's still rotating, still pushing south and east. Now look, I'm saying it's rotating. It doesn't mean it's tornadic at the moment. If that circulation tightens up a little bit and gets stronger, then we may see a tornadic supercell. But the rotation is something that you see a lot of times in severe thunderstorms, because that's how they produce the hail core. That rotation allows them to be able to loft the hail. And there you see the new severe thunderstorm warning that's just been issued. So I want to get you updated on that. We'll get you the new information. First of all, I'll click that just so you can see it does have the tornado possible tagging here. I will actually go back to this product, and then I'm just going to query this manually. The reason I'm going to do that is because it's going to give me a little bit more information. I'm going to click on that one right there. You should see the tornado possible wording. 60-mile-per-hour winds and hail size of about 1 inch in diameter is what we're expecting. It does have a minor little hail core here because, as I said, the whole thunderstorm is rotating, and that's how it's able to loft the hail. Going to continue to the south and east. Now, let me look at the speed of this just so I can get a good track on it. Do want to show you that. This is going to be moving southeast at 25. These are moving much more slowly than we would like. That's significant because they're producing a lot of heavy rain. They're producing heavy rain in areas that are seeing flooding. This is going to continue to exacerbate our flood concern. So because we now know that it's moving south and east at about 25 miles per hour, I want to give you a track on this. There's southeast at about 25. I'm actually going to speed it up a mile per hour or so, just so you get a little bit of a heads up. Atlanta here at 24 minutes, so maybe just after 10 after the hour, 2:10 or so. And then Arcadia here, 29, Hamilton Heights Middle School, 29 minutes from now. So you have about that much time before that system moves through. And just as expected, a new flash flood warning has also been issued. Now starting to see this expand. I think we're going to see much more of this as the morning unfolds. There is a little bit of movement with this, but it's not as far to the south as I would like it to be, and it's certainly not as fast as I would like it to be. That flash flood warning now extends over into parts of Benton County. Will that continue into Tippecanoe County? Will it continue pushing to the east? Will we see more of these flash flood warnings? It's certainly possible. We have 2 over in the eastern part of the state, just north of Muncie, and then over into Winchester. I think we're probably going to see many more of these. Will we see the flash flood emergency situation that we had 3 days ago? It's not likely, but the threshold has certainly been lowered by how saturated everything is. Everything is really saturated. The rivers are high. It really isn't going to take much for the National Weather Service to pull triggers on something like that if it looks like things are kind of going that way. A lot of lightning with this as well, including the severe thunderstorm warning that includes Lafayette, also includes over to Frankfort as well. In fact, I do have a camera in Frankfort. Maybe I'll adjust the camera here in just a moment to show you that. Now we're starting to see all of the warnings begin to fill in. So we've got multiple severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got multiple flash flood warnings. There's an additional severe thunderstorm warning to the east. We kind of expected this to unfold this way. I just don't like to see it. I don't like to actually see this type of forecast unfold the way we expected. Matt, this is something I want you to kind of watch as I do it, and I want you to be able to use this because I think it bears watching. We've got so many rivers that a lot of people aren't really aware of, so I put these graphics together. You're welcome to grab them, showing the rivers that we're looking at here. The Wabash, the White, this is the Big Blue, the Flat Rock, the Driftwood, then the Whitewater, where we had the flooding earlier, and the Mississinewa. Now, several of these, and this may change, Matt, so you may have to update this manually, they have crested. These rivers have all crested. Minor flooding for the Mississinewa, the Whitewater River, and the Flatwater River, moderate flooding. I'm going to disregard those for the moment. The Big Blue is still expecting major flooding and has not yet crested, and of course the White River, we have major flooding that's ongoing that may still have yet to rise in some locations, and of course this doesn't take into account the additional rain that's falling at the moment. Muncie has already crested on the White River. Now, I'm just talking specifically about the White River because this is the major river that runs through most of the metro area and is also where we're seeing the most significant flooding. All of that heavy rain that we saw Tuesday and into Wednesday, all of that has now gotten into the rivers and tributaries and is pushing downstream, almost like a bubble of water. So it's now cresting as we speak in Anderson at record levels. Both of these crested at major flood stage. Anderson right now is at 24.68. The record was 23.6. We are a foot over the highest it has ever been in Anderson. All that water will continue moving down the White River, and by the time it gets to Noblesville, sometime Saturday morning when the river will crest there, we will be at moderate flood stage. Not quite as significant for Anderson and certainly not a record, but still some flooding, moderate flooding. Same thing for the 82nd Street bridge that goes over the White River, the green bridge that you see very close to Keystone at the crossing. That will crest sometime at 2 p.m. Likely will not go over the bridge. It will not be that high. This will not be a record flood situation for the 82nd Street location on the White River. Still going to be moderate flooding. There will still be some areas where we may have some flooding up over a couple of the back roads there. Once that moves through the city, the good news is that the city has done a lot of work over the years. since the city's been around to mitigate the ongoing flooding threat from the White River. So because they've mitigated it, minor flooding is what we're expecting here for Raymond Street with the crest sometime Saturday late afternoon or evening. The water continues to move down the White River to Martinsville, which may crest sometime on Monday. Then it goes into Spencer, which may not crest until Tuesday. Future Track has nailed this latest batch of rain. That hasn't been the case all week, but it has nailed this latest batch of rain. And unfortunately, it calls for more rain to fall, 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Here's 5 a.m., more rain falling in the same location. This is why I think we're going to have flash flood warnings continue this morning. Then as we get into early morning, 9 a.m., finally getting a kick to this to get it out of here. But by that point, we could have picked up already as much as 2 to 4 additional inches of rain. Just with one of the thunderstorms we had within the last 2 hours, it picked up an inch of rain with just the one cell. So I can only imagine how much rain we're going to add with this. And then we pick this back up into Saturday morning, unfortunately, with another cluster of thunderstorms that move through for Saturday morning, and then another cluster potentially as we get into Saturday afternoon and into the evening. May have some issues at the State Fair as well. So boy, just cannot catch a break from this. There's Future Track. Again, an additional 2 to 4 inches of rain possible. I see meteorologist Sean Ashen here as well, who's supposed to be sleeping, but you can't keep a good man down, I guess, when it comes to severe weather coverage, and it just seems like we cannot catch a break. So a couple of things that are happening right now. Here's what we're tracking. Severe thunderstorm warning right now over Wayne County, Richmond, dealing with heavy rain in areas that don't need it. 2 flash flood warnings right now, the northern part of Delaware County, also including over into Winchester. That's where we have the flash flood warnings. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings here, but it's essentially the same cell. This one has the tornado possible wording with it as it now moves through Tipton County, moving through Tipton as we speak, and includes the northern part of Hamilton County, including Noblesville. To the west from there, an additional severe thunderstorm warning of a very slow-moving and prolific rainmaker, also a prolific lightning maker, and notice what's also popping up on the map here. Additional flash flood warnings. Probably going to see those flash flood warnings extended to the east, and we may at some point see the northern half of our viewing area go under more flash flood warnings to essentially connect these all together. I think this line is going to fill in. And for Sean and for Matt that are now kind of joining us in the studio, just this is the area that I'm really going to be watching over the next hour or so that you guys should really keep an eye on. Yeah. Sean, what you got for me?
Yeah, I mean, well, one thing I've noticed is how quickly the flash flood warnings came out, Rob.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense here. I have noticed a little bit of rotation.
I don't think your mic is up yet, potted up in the control room, perhaps. He's on 6 at the moment, just FYI for those that are in there. He's on 6. I'll give them a moment to see if they can get that up. But yeah, this is the flash flood warnings did come out quickly. There's a couple of reasons I think that's been the case, Sean. 1, the ground is saturated. 2, the rivers are at record flood stage, especially in Anderson. 3, we've got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere that the storms are just continuing to wring out. And then 4, they're moving very slowly, and we've already gotten ground truth from that. One of the storms that came through earlier where we had a hail producer, as it moved through and produced that hail, it also produced about an inch of rain in a short amount of time. That is verification, and it's why I think the National Weather Service is not taking any chances. They're saying, yeah, if the rain is coming down and it stays there any amount of time, we're going to continue to see the flooding. It sounds like your mic is now good, Sean. So feel free to jump in at any point of what you've got. I've also noticed, Sean, that a lot of these have been rotating, but we haven't had any tornado concerns outside of that. These are rotating and producing some hail. Each signature, though, and I'll put the velocity on just so I can take a look at this one. I haven't looked at it in the last maybe 10 minutes or so, but each one of these has been rotating. This one is broad at the moment. If I back the radar up, you'll actually see that it's been pretty consistent and holding together. You can see the couplet continuing to push south and east. All of the cells have been rotating. It's why the hail cores have been so strong, especially with that first cell that came out of Howard County and then eventually is now into Wayne County. It held together pretty well. In fact, here it is. Let me move the map back so we get back to the Indy radar. It is no longer showing quite the strong signature, but when this was up into parts of Madison County, it had a huge hail core with it, and it was rotating. It was a very significant but broad rotation. Thankfully, no tornado warning came out. So that one now moving across Wayne County. And look, this is the area that's received a foot of rain earlier this week. In fact, when we add this on top of it, we may really be surging the numbers up here into the teens when it comes to inches of rain that they've received over the course of the week. We don't want that, but everything that I've looked at tells me that this area is going to fill in quite a bit more than just this one cell that's been moving through. We've got that cell. There's the 2 flash flood warnings from that cell that moved through earlier. We now have the new severe thunderstorm warning. There's also a new storm report that just came up, so I'm going to query that and see what just came up with that one. This is right underneath where that cell came through.
60-mile-per-hour gust.
60-mile-per-hour gust with that?
Out of Tipton, about 3 miles northwest of Goldsmith, Tipton County.
Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. So producing some gusty winds. I think the hail threat that was farther east, this part of the storm system may be much more of a wind damage threat. And then farther to the north and west, this may become the focal point of our initial onset of the additional flash flooding threat. So we've got a multi-pronged attack here this morning. And also that one too is maybe showing a little bit of rotation, I've noticed. When this was over into Illinois, it had, oh yeah, in fact, there's a couple of areas there that I don't like the way that's looking near Lafayette. This may actually be one of the cells we really have to keep an eye on. Some gusty winds potentially here near Lafayette and also just to the west of Attica. Sean, I don't know if you've been looking at that.
I just saw that, yeah.
That's actually the brightest I've seen here during the overnight since this kind of latest batch has come through. I haven't seen quite as much of that tonight, so that shocked me a little bit. In fact, when I back the radar up, I'm just going to move that out of the way so it's no longer there. These little kind of spiky bright spots are showing up. And that's a good key that we're seeing some gusty winds with this. And what may also be happening, I'm going to go back to the radar. We may be getting those little fingers that sometimes show up when you have these events. Yeah, see, there's a couple right there. I think we're getting these little spikes of some of the wind that's trying to push this system forward. We may get a bow echo that forms out of this, Sean. It's actually reaching out and touching the ground and pushing forward. So it's why the severe thunderstorm warning is in place. We'll have to watch it and make sure that none of those little spikes go up above the 60-mile-per-hour range. We may start to get into a situation here where a couple of these little areas, these spikes, may top 60 miles per hour. Now, we are a bit away from the Indianapolis radar, but I do want to query this just to see what that bright spot is showing there just north and west of Lafayette. I'll let the new scan come in and we'll see what a couple of these show up. 51, I bet there's a 60 in there. Yeah, 62 miles per hour. We also have some very broad and kind of noisy rotation that's showing up within this. So there's just a lot that's happening this morning. Flash flooding concerns, severe thunderstorm warning concerns, some minor rotation within a couple of the cells with tornado possible wording, probably going to see much more of a flood threat continue to unfold. In addition to the flash flood threat, we've got the river flooding threat, which is going to be exacerbated by this flooding threat. Sean, I put this together and I told Matt about it. I'm going to go through it with you as well so you can kind of see. We've got such a river flood threat that there's so many rivers we're talking about. I thought I'd do a little bit of a geography lesson here, kind of labeling all the rivers, the major rivers that we've been talking about, and also where they are when it comes to flood stage. Now, the Mississinewa is crested. It's at minor flood stage when it did that. The Whitewater River has also crested. It was at moderate flood stage when it did so. Same thing with the Flat Rock River. Because those are crested, I'm going to get rid of those. Now, this doesn't take into account the latest rainfall that's happening, so this may change and may need to be adjusted. The Big Blue still is rising in some locations. Some locations have crested, some are still rising. Same with the Driftwood River. It's the White River that's have the major flooding that we're concerned with right now, but also the Wabash. It's also under a river flood warning. Minor flooding is expected there. Let's spend some time talking about the White River. What I've done here is that all of our official gauges along the White River, the most significant ones, when is it going to crest? When will the highest river levels be reached? It's already happened in Muncie. It's literally happening right now in Anderson. Last I checked, and Sean, you may have more information on this, it was at 24.68. The record there is 23.6. It's at 24.68 and expected to crest at 24.8. And that's happening right now. As of the last 15, 30 minutes or so, it's where we saw it. All of that goes down, and you can see it won't be quite as significant flooding. This is major flooding that happened here, Muncie and Anderson.
Yeah, you're right. 24.86
0.86 or 0.68?
0.86 according to the,
Okay, if it's at 8.6, that's a new observation. That will be the new record, and that's actually above the crest forecast. Did they have a new crest forecast? They did have 24.8.
no, 24 was their last forecast.
Okay, so it's now surpassed what the forecast was.
Yep.
Unfortunately, Sean and Matt, this means that we're going to add more rain on top of this, and
Yep.
in areas that it's got to go into the White River. It can't go anywhere else. So this crest timing may change. Also, how much it's going to crest, what level of flooding could also change just a bit. So I just put that together. Feel free to pull that out of my show if you want to use it this morning and adjust it as needed as new data comes in. I wanted to make sure you had that. Sean, what do you have?
Well, I've got a, Evan, I'm on too. So what I did, I put a track on that southeast at about 30-35 miles per hour. If that track holds, and I might argue the forward speed is picking up a bit, that gets it into Indy at 4 o'clock. And that's with that section of the storm. We also have another bowing portion. When I say bow, which means we're looking at severe wind potential. We've also noticed some rotation here. In addition to all of that, just about every single storm this morning, and as Rob has been talking about, every single one is going to produce flash flood warnings. All right, so I want to dive in here. We're going to show you some pockets of rotation. Okay, these are all severe thunderstorm warnings right now. It's to me kind of fanning. We're not seeing as much tightening of the rotation, if you will, but we definitely are seeing a big broad wind field that's spreading through. So it's going to be through Lafayette, eventually gets into Crawfordsville, and then we've got a severe thunderstorm warning that continues for parts of Tipton County here. One product that I want to show you and why this is important and why it's easy to understand actually is that I was talking to Rob about this yesterday, there is just so much moisture in the atmosphere. These rain rates are going to be absolutely nearly off the charts. But we're going to get, in some cases, nearly 2 inches or more per hour rain rates, and that's what we're seeing here. Even if you took away the rain that we've had this week, which has been historic, we were going to get flash flooding out of this. And even if we weren't, if we were getting 1 inch to 1.5 inches per hour rain rates, we were going to get on this. But this is what we have here. That's 2.5 inch per hour rain rates. Some of these are going to maybe exceed 3 inches at times. So this rain is unfortunately going to add up very quickly. I'm going to recap the warnings that we have. Okay, so essentially from Petersburg, Lafayette, Attica, and then moving east over into Tipton, parts of Hamilton counties. All right, those are the severe thunderstorm warnings. And then unfortunately, here are the new flash flood warnings. And Matt, those are, we're gonna see, I bet over half of our map by the time we get to 4 o'clock is gonna be flash flood warnings.
The last time when we were getting those flash flood warnings, we needed about 5 inches or so of rainfall. That is not the case anymore, Sean. These places are already absolutely soaked. So we only need another inch or two. You get the flash flood warning, and we'll see how much more rain is on the way. Real quick, we're going to reset. Thank you, Rob, for covering all these storms throughout the overnight. He's going to get some sleep because we need him for the afternoon and for more rain and storm chances that are going to be out there throughout the day. But hopefully things wind down after this morning round. This is a live look in Richmond. Lots of lightning, very heavy rain coming for you guys. You've got the storm sitting right overhead, and sometimes these cameras will go in and out. I had Lafayette up, but it is so noisy. It is so loud out there this morning. So many folks are going to be woken up by this storm. I mean, Sean, when you're just kind of looking out wide and just looking at the lightning itself, lightning is a good indicator of which thunderstorm is the strongest. And it's this one that Rob was talking about. You can kind of see those fingers, and we may see it start to gust. There's a bunch of cool rain behind it that's going to drive it forward. This thing, completely severe thunderstorm warned. This thing is likely headed towards the Indianapolis area. We also have more severe thunderstorm warnings. It looks like the severe thunderstorm warning around Wayne County has been dropped, but you still have the warning up there now, northern Hamilton County and into Tipton County. So this is a recap, closer look Live Doppler 13, some high resolution data coming in. Gusty winds near 60 miles per hour coming from these storms. Sean was just timing those as they were headed to the south and east. They're moving about 30 to 35 miles per hour. So, I mean, you could drive a little bit faster than that on 65 coming in from Lafayette, but they're going to be approaching the Indianapolis area here within the next hour to 2 hours. Right now, we got a lot of lightning coming through Tipton, crossing Hamilton County, coming up towards Morse. Here's Noblesville. We're included in that severe thunderstorm warning, and we're watching Noblesville closely because Rob had that really nice map showing all the flooding, and that is what's going to be next. Noblesville, the water is going up, and we'll probably have some flooding that reaches into some neighborhoods around Noblesville, and then some more water headed towards the Indianapolis area. So when you're looking at these different colors, the yellow color shows you the severe thunderstorm warnings. The red boxes show you those flash flood warnings, and we're getting more and more of those as the rain continues to fall. So what's going on is when you zoom out just a touch, we've been watching this, Sean, how there's this boundary that had formed throughout the overnight hours. I'm going to kind of draw it. It's in this white line. All this southerly flow is coming up to this white line. We call it the low-level jet. Sparks the storms near the line, and then they slowly drift to the south and east. The problem, though, is they keep forming close to that back line. So it's not as if you get one storm and it's done. Look how much more heavy rain is on the backside that continues to flow. Right now, the heaviest rain is trending right now to the west, but gradually some of these storms will move to the south and east over time. And so all these areas that have already picked up a lot of water will continue to see those flash flooding threats. Even places that we haven't had flooding really yet, now we're getting flash flood warnings because Sean was showing you those estimated precip rates, how much rain is falling every hour, and that is now 1 to 2 inches in several spots. So when you're just looking at the warnings, we've got the flash flood warnings out towards the east and to the west. Got a couple different severe thunderstorm warnings that we've been tracking too, kind of different severities. Still that tornado tag possible is with that storm out west, but we're talking about severe thunderstorm warnings, gusty winds coming right through Lafayette, and also some hail. We're looking at the hail. It's not as impressive as it was earlier. Earlier we had ping pong sized hail coming through Muncie, and then there's still a little bit of hail. If I move the map just a touch over, you see a tiny bit of hail over Centerville right now, kind of in between Cambridge City and Centerville there along US 40. But right now, hail-wise, we're about a ½ inch or so. So just under a quarter-sized hail as you are around, let's say, just south of Tipton coming up and down US 31. This is the track of the hail. Look at this hail that we had earlier, right through Grant County into Delaware County and into Henry County, but that has weakened. That's some good news, but there's still a little bit of hail out west. Really, the hail threat's not the biggest thing. We do have a lot of wind. In fact, there's a new storm report coming in from the west right now. This storm report, let's go ahead and query this up.
Matt, there's one in Henry County as well.
Henry County as well.
Large tree down.
Large tree down. Thank you, Sean.
Eastern Henry.
Eastern Henry. Okay, so I'll put that. It says the tree is on the home now, Sean. Well, that may actually be Madison County. Hold on. Yeah, there's a tree. So if I'm zooming in to query these, there's a tree on a home in Madison County. And then in Henry County, let's go a little bit farther south.
Yeah, and this is the last thing. It's like we're adding insult to injury.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
yep.
I think what's probably going to happen here, partner, is we're going to end up seeing if you show that radar, expand it out,
sure,
and then put your radar in motion.
There you go. I'll step to the side.
Take the wind component out of it, and we're going to get wind out of it.
Sure.
That is, we are going to have a swath of flash flood warnings.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know if that complex is going to make it in the eastern part of the state.
Sure.
This is probably going to put much more of the metro area in place here.
Which the metro area has picked up 1 to 3, 4 inches or so. So it's not, I know we're talking a lot about eastern Indiana, I get it, but that's where the historic flooding has been. But we have already picked up a month's worth of rain already this week in places like Indianapolis. So that's not something to glance over. So when you add another few inches coming in, 2 to 4 inches plus in some spots because of these storms. And Sean, what's crazy is when you look at this storm, you may get a quick inch or so with this, but then you look back to the north and west, there's all this other rain trying to flow in. Look at all this back building rain, just tropical downpours moving very slowly to the south and east. The general track is about 30 miles, 35 miles, give or take. But there's all this other rain on the backside. But right now we're watching that wind come down 65. We've got some of the wind coming towards Noblesville. Still have that severe thunderstorm warning, a little bit of hail crossing into Hamilton County right now. If I zoom into Hamilton County, you can see a little bit better. You can see US 31 right here, coming into Arcadia next, Perkinsville, even Sheridan will be, you're not in the warning technically, but we're going to have a lot of heavy rain coming in next, and Noblesville, more of that heavy rain. And here's where the White River is. And so we're about to get a lot more heavy rain, and it is cresting up towards Anderson right now. So historic flooding in Madison County. I'm going to do a storm track on some of these storms. I'm going to pause the radar real quick. We'll go from west to east because there's a lot of different storms to watch. So we're going to take the biggest one. Look at all this lightning too. And it's not decreasing in its lightning. That would be a sign of its weakening. It's not weakening.
Nope.
This thing is holding steady. But let's time this out. We'll do rough timing. Push it to the south and east towards the Indianapolis area. About 35 miles per hour or so, give or take. You see some of the towns here. So Crawfordsville in about 40 minutes or so. Lebanon just after the 3 o'clock hour. We get it into Hamilton County, which, by the way, Hamilton County, you're getting a storm already. The storm's kind of slipping in first, and kind of worried about you guys because you're going to get this storm first, to dump heavy rain, and then you get this next wave that's going to come right in behind. But Westfield, rough timing, 324. Carmel, just over about an hour and 15 minutes or so, so 3:30-ish. Fishers, about 3:45-ish. Once again, you'll get this storm first. I'm talking about this back edge storm. Indianapolis just after the 4 o'clock hour. We'll start our newscast at 4 o'clock and we'll continue to have those updates. By the way, I was talking with some of our producers, Sean. We're trying to figure out where to send our reporters. We're going to send one to Muncie to continue to watch the flooding there, but we're also sending someone to Anderson because right now we have the river cresting, the White River in the Anderson area, and we may have to relocate more reporters.
Well,
get
yeah,
them out.
when I left yesterday, the thought process was, because we knew we were going to have 2 reporters, let's have a third person
Sure.
on call ready to roll.
Sure.
That person might need to be a little closer to the metro area, to the urban flash flood component. That
They
we're
may not
probably
need to
gonna
go
have.
far.
Correct.
You know? Okay, so like Sean was talking about, look at all the flash flood warnings being issued behind really the severe thunderstorm warning. What you'll probably see will be a bunch more red boxes fill in as the storm pushes to the south and east. So that was that storm up in Lafayette, coming in towards Montgomery County. You're out there towards Park County getting a lot of heavy rain and lightning. So now let's look at the storm that's along US 31. It's leaving the Howard County area, but we're still getting rain. The leading edge, though, of this storm with a little bit of hail that we'll continue to watch. By the way, I want to look at the rotation just for a second. Sean, it's been something enough that we have to watch. Right? We have these small rotations on the leading edge, and that can happen when you have this low-level jet coming in. The southern edges of these storms we have to watch because there's been minor rotation. So some of these severe thunderstorm warnings have these tags called tornado possible because there's rotation. It's not crazy strong, so that's why they haven't issued a tornado warning. But we've seen tornadoes spin up for 1 minute, and then they're gone again, and you really can't ever see them on the radar. So we still have to watch. There's a tornado tag possible. We're watching that little bit of rotation around Arcadia. But if we go back to the storm, let me go ahead and time it out. This one might be moving a little bit slower. I'll change the speed down to 30 miles per hour. Right now it's estimated at 35. I know it's not make a big difference, but enter that in. Let me redraw it real quick. With the storm going south and east. Here's the rest of Hamilton County. So I know we already timed out Hamilton County, right? But you'll get this storm first. So Noblesville 245 here, just within the next 30 minutes. I mean, it's really going to be in town. Westfield 252, Fishers 311. And then if we extend this out just a little bit more, I do think this thing is headed towards Henry County, which we do not need more rain, but Newcastle, latest time, just over an hour away. So give us hour 15 minutes, let's say, 324, hour 10. It'll be arriving for the Trojans this morning. And then we back out a little bit more. Let's go to that storm that's right over Wayne County. This is no longer severe warned, but there's still some very heavy rain over some of the worst flooded areas. Still wrapping up now, it looks like in Cambridge City. That's good. We're going to try to get a break before more rain comes in. But that heavy rain is up and down US 40. And right now, by the way, they have changed the detour because I-70 remains closed in the westbound direction. They got close yesterday to try to reopen it, but then rain and storms were in the area and that impacted. So I-70 West remains closed. The detour no longer takes you north to Lynn. You could do that. You could totally do that. Take 27 north to 36 west out to Pendleton. But now the new detour is to go south into Richmond at Chester Boulevard. And once again, there's a ton of construction there. But you go south to US 40, you go past Centerville, you get to Cambridge City, but you turn at the Golay Center. Golay Center has been a standing ground to help rescue folks and to get them out of their homes, because there's kind of a big dip right there in the road, so water can kind of flow back out. But where that main flooding in Cambridge City was, there's kind of a dip at US 40, so it's basically a big old bowl, and that's where we saw that flooding. But you take a turn, a right-hand turn at the Golay, that's State Road 1. It'll take you to Interstate, and you can continue to go. But still very heavy rain coming down, and I'm going to go ahead and put how much rain has fallen so far this morning. The yellow color shows you where we've already had 2 inches. So Sean, when you're looking at some of these rainfall totals, I'll send it to you to see what you got. I mean, we've already are close to 2 inches there with the storm that just hit us in the Lafayette. I mean, this rain is torrential. These downpours are very heavy. The raindrops themselves are so heavy. And Sean, with that wind, you may not be getting hail, but it may sound like it's hailing outside because the drops are so big, slamming against your window. And then plus you add some wind, and it is very loud, Sean, out west.
Yeah, and I mean, something I want to point out too, Matt, is we have various types of flash flood warnings, and why this is going to be important this morning. If the Weather Service office issues a flash flood warning that has the considerable tag, phones will go off. Now, this particular warning for northern Benton was not of that variety. That's not to say that that may not change, but I think we're probably going to get some of those considerable flash flood warnings. And again, that's important because that's going to wake a lot of folks up if they're already not up. I'm just going to check the 2 warnings, the other 2 warnings, the flash flood warnings that we have, and probably going to get those phones going off. Now, whether or not we get into flash flood emergency territory like we had the other morning, that's to be determined. It would not surprise me because, again, the threshold for that to even occur is much lower due to the just rounds of heavy storms that we have had. And I've lost count, to be honest with you, of how many we've had this week. I want to suggest that this is probably around possibly 7 or 8 for some folks. So as you stay with us here on the WTHR streaming channel, 2:20 here on this Friday morning, we have got what we didn't want to see, but unfortunately what we expected to see, and that is this broad line of thunderstorms moving east and southeast here. And within it, we have had some wind damage in its path, and then we know that we are getting into the flooding situation here. Let me take a look at our NDOT cameras. All right, so this is that's I-70. So that's over in Wayne County. This is I-65 in Lafayette. These things are highly energized as well, so the lightning will be near continuous when it gets over your area, and the street flooding will become, almost instantaneous. Probably won't take more than 5 or 10 minutes before we get into significant street flooding with this. And you can see, as we just look at that camera there, just how much lightning. And I'll turn the lightning back on so you can see the strikes that we've had. And as I play the radar in motion for you, you can see the intensity of the storm here. We talked about it taking on a bow shape. Matt's talked about that low-level wind field that's feeding into it. Now, around the metro area, that's a lot of what we call radar clutter, but that's an indication, Matt, unfortunately, of just how moist the air is this morning. And, we got high-octane fuel for these storms. We've noticed a little bit of rotation. Most of what we're going to be dealing with, in my opinion, is probably going to be just a broad 60-plus mile per hour wind field. But within that, we might get a couple of areas that we'll have to monitor closely for tightening of rotation. If we do get a tornado warning, or if we do get a flash flood emergency, we're probably going to have to get on and maybe stay on Channel 13. Now, That's about as tight of a couplet as we have seen so far this morning. And that is just east of 19 there, near Atlanta and near Arcadia. Okay, so it wouldn't surprise us if we do get a quick tornado this morning, based on the low-level wind field that's feeding into these storms. Very strong, and that's what's going to fuel them all morning long here. All right, so I'm going to do a track on this because, man, and look where it's going. This thing is going to go right through Madison County. Madison County. And if you've got friends that are in Anderson, I'm sure they're already aware of the river flooding that's unfolding. But we are going to tack on, we're going to have a flash flood warning here, I would think, before we get to 3:30. So please give them a heads up. This is going to be cutting right through Madison County. I'm doing a 30-mile-per-hour southeast. So it gets to Anderson by 3 a.m. It will not take long at all for flash flooding. Of course, it's already flooding. We know that the river is way above, out of its bank, but even areas that aren't being impacted necessarily by the White River are going to be impacted by flooding here with this storm. Can't stress it enough, and I can't tell you how concerned we have been coming into this morning because of what you're seeing on radar. And we're going to see an extension of all of these flood warnings that you see here. Okay, those are going to get expanded to the east and southeast. So where you have a severe, probably the progression, Matt, is going to be you get a severe thunderstorm warning first,
Yep.
and very shortly after you'll be then put under a flash flood warning.
Well, speaking of the flash flooding that's behind the big storm in Lafayette, Sean, I was just querying for a moment how much rain is falling every single hour, and we're getting estimates now above 3 inches per hour. And then, so what's going to happen is you probably get some nasty wind first, then the rain really picks up, and then it really dumps there for a bit, inch, 2-3 inches or so in an hour. Then on the backside, still raining heavily, but you may go down to about an inch per hour. But you add up just a few hours before sunrise, I mean, you can easily hit 2 to 4 plus inches. We may have to go a little bit higher on some of these because when you back the radar up just a little bit, look how much more rain is headed your way. Once again, this is the 1 hour precipitation. So how much rain is falling every single hour, and you're watching it back up to the north and west. So right now, our most serious flooding potential within the next couple of hours is out west right now, from Tippecanoe County out west to Park and Fountain and Vermilion counties too, kind of going up and down the Wabash right here. We do have some trees down, some limbs down across the state. You can see those on your map as well. We've had some hail as well, but it looks like the hail threat has weakened a little bit when we're looking at some of the hailstones, but we do have a tree on a house in Madison County around Alexandria, and then some limbs down. This would be about Wilbur Wright Road in eastern Henry County. We'll go ahead and back up for a second. You might be just tuning in, your county. Maybe you're starting to hear the thunder. It is so loud. It's the type of loud that it's hard to sleep for most folks because the lightning count is so much. In fact, I was just looking in Tippecanoe County. There we have actively about 500 lightning strikes here in the past 15 minutes or so. I mean, it's just strike after strike across the county. It is so loud. It looks like we may have also increased the lightning a bit on the cell coming into Tipton County, and that's headed to Hamilton County next. But you're watching this whole zone of heavy rain, and we've been worried about this for a while now, talking about this wave that would form. It is gradually moving. The problem, though, is it keeps back building, which means you get a storm, but more storms are forming behind it, so you'll get those storms as well. The heaviest rain right now still tracking out west, but over time what may happen is that these storms will push towards the south and east a little bit. But with all the heavy rain that we're talking about, 2 to 3 inches or so per hour coming down, you're getting some cooler air. It looks like we're building that to our north and west. See this kind of green area right up here? I mean, you're getting in northwest Indiana. That is helping to now drive the storm to the south and east, and that's why we have so many of those gusty winds. So if you're living south of I-70, let's say you're around Bloomington and Columbus, you had the storms yesterday. We're dry for now. We'll see. There's a chance some of these try to skim you, and we're seeing a little bit more build on the southwestern flank there coming in across the state line. Farther eastbound, where we've had the historic flooding, we just had a good downpour come right on through Muncie, through Richmond. In fact, I can look up to see how much rain we picked up as that thing was rolling through eastern Indiana. Once again, I have Wayne County, Henry, Delaware, and Randolph counties. It looks like Randolph County, we picked up some of the most rain out of that first cell. But just to see how much rain fell over these areas, let's see, we've got maybe an inch, just shy of an inch. You get closer to Winchester, though, close to 2 inches on the west side of town. So we already got another inch to 2 inches out east.
And I will tell you,
Yeah.
the high-res modeling yesterday hinted multiple run after multiple run of somewhere in our viewing area getting 5-6 inches of rainfall. So we want you to know that that's potentially on the table here, Matt.
Now I'm looking at some of the total estimations coming in. We were talking about per hour. We're already halfway there, Sean.
Yeah, there you go.
When you said 6 inches, we're
Yeah.
not done. The storm just hit Tippecanoe County.
Yeah.
This one out west is similar to some of the first storms we had that night, that early morning that we had all the flooding. What is that, Wednesday morning? I got my days messed up now.
I think it was Wednesday morning. Yeah.
So this is what we saw at first. Eventually we dropped it to 1 to 2, but it didn't matter. You had that base that just so much rain fell. And so that flooding risk continues to go up out in western Indiana. We've already picked up 1 to 2 inches through Cass County, which, by the way, Cass County, we're not forgetting about you guys. You picked up over a foot of rain, or nearly a foot, especially north of Logansport, north of the Wabash, and we have more flooding that's going to be likely, but already picking up. This shows you how much rain we just picked up for the past 6 hours. So eventually what's happened here overnight so far, these are the rainfall rates. You have the blue color. As soon as you get the blue color, you're at 2 inches per hour. Once you get to kind of a brighter blue, and I'll zoom in and see a little bit better. Once you get to that brighter blue, you're about 3 inches per hour. We have that in Tippecanoe County. I mean, it is absolutely pouring in Lafayette. I'll show you the cameras. I was trying to move some of the cameras to some of the city streets. They keep kind of going in and out. I mean, it's a nasty storm over there.
I've got
right
on
now.
NDOT
You got
2,
one?
I've got I-65 at State Road 38, just sheets of rain.
Okay.
Yeah.
There it is. You
Yeah.
see all that lightning. I mean, it's just coming down.
Yeah, sheets of rain. And then also what I've noticed, Matt, on radar here is we're getting what we call a wind surge. And let me get in a little bit closer here so you can see that. That right there, you see that
Yeah.
bright? So let me lapse the radar. So that is a big surge of wind that's rushing out, trying to get out ahead of the storm, and that's now blasting into Montgomery County. Now I'm just trying to look at some of the winds. The radar wind speeds aren't overly impressive, but I think 45 to 50 mile per hour gust can be enough this morning because of just how saturated the soils are here across central Indiana. So if you're just waking up, or maybe you've been up, we're going to be on this for the remainder of the morning here. I'm going to be in with Matt, and we appreciate Rob, hanging as long as he did to get you covered here. All right. So if you're south of this line, let's just give you the next, half hour or so. These are some of the towns here. It's generally moving 30. It's probably going to pick up a little bit of speed. Okay. I've had some people on social media ask, is this going to hit the metro area? And a very quick answer is yes. Everyone in our viewing area is going to be impacted in some fashion today. Now, I tell you, Matt, I don't wish heavy rain on anyone, but I would not be upset if the higher numbers with this were not over areas that had a 1,000-year flood just 2 days ago.
Right.
So let's put the radar into motion, but you can see the general path of what we're dealing with here. It's going to be a southeast movement, okay? So I'm showing some arrows here of how this thing's going to work. Going to be a real close call for cities like Connorsville and Cambridge City, but it is moving in an east-southeast fashion. The metro area is not going to miss this. We are going to get hit. The last check here was at about a little after 4 o'clock, and I think that is probably going to hold. I am going to pick up the speed. We're going to do 35 miles per hour on the track. Now, I'm doing the western portion of the. So again, roughly around 4 a.m. We may get some stuff ahead of that. It's certainly got another storm complex. We got multiple, the big broad area of heavy rain here. These are some of the ETAs, and so. Wind potential is there. It is the flooding rain. That is our big concern here this morning. And it's going to do a combination of a couple things. Because we're going to have we'll have flash flood warnings, and it all has to go somewhere. So we'll have to deal with the flash flooding first, and then this is going to aggravate the already swollen rivers here, of which we've got a record crest occurring in Anderson this morning. So what do you remember what we have, 24?
24 point something, I mean,
I think
over 24.
Yeah, it's over 24 this morning in Anderson. I'll click that, get the latest here that came in, about 24.86. Record was 23.6, so eclipsed that by more than a foot.
When you zoom in on it, Sean, does it look like it's leveling off, or does it kind of look like it's still going up? I know it's kind of hard to tell maybe, but.
It has leveled.
It has leveled, okay.
It has leveled.
Okay.
Now the problem is, we're going to take what you see on radar here.
Yeah.
And speaking of, this right here, let me put the radar into motion. So that's going to go right over Anderson. And this is going to aggravate what's going on. Now I don't have lightning turned on. When I turn it on, you can see just how, Matt pointed this out. And these things are rolling, man. This is coming in quick, and let's go ahead and make sure we don't have any. I'm not seeing any areas of
That wind
strong
spike though in
rotation.
Tippecanoe County. Do you see that new scan that kind of came in?
Yeah.
It's a little bit stronger there on the southeast side.
Yeah. So we'll be watching this. We've got a multitude of things that we're watching. We got the wind potential, but it is the flash flooding. So numerous warnings at this hour. No severe thunderstorm warnings, I should point out, Matt. But what we're going to be watching is that northwest Indiana. We'll see if we get an extension of those flash flood warnings.
They just dropped that big one from Tippecanoe County. Even though the radar was picking it up, it seems like most of that wind is a little bit more elevated. And Sean, I was just looking at the airport for Purdue, 43 mile per hour gusts.
Okay.
And so that might be one reason why the wind wasn't the strongest at the airport. I will say that. It was a little bit east of town. But it looks like they've just dropped that severe thunderstorm warning. Still though, this is an absolute wall of water that is pushing to the south and east. We're probably going to get some flash flood warnings here soon that will be extended. Notice how, and Sean was saying this earlier, you get the severe thunderstorm warning and then 5 minutes later, you get a flash flood warning. There's the new one, John. It just came out. Let me go ahead and zoom on this. This now includes this. I'm going to switch this over to just watches and warnings.
Yeah.
So the red color shows you that new warning.
There it is, man.
So it's going up and down the Wabash. So this would be Fountain County right here. And then you've got most of Tippecanoe County. So it was the north side of Lafayette. Now it's also the south side going all the way down to 65. This would go down to about Concord and Stockwell for that flash flood warning. And I would expect this to continue to build. Don't be surprised if we have a wall of red that just continues south and east. Because when you're looking at these rainfall reports and estimations from the radar, I mean, this shows you what's happening now. But then this shows you how much rain is actually falling every single hour. The blue color shows you, once again, the 2-inch per hour rainfall rates. We have that also coming into northern Hamilton County. Once again, we are worried about the White River, and we'll see how much rain falls. And that forecast for Noblesville, you're next. That water's already rising. We'll be watching to see how much rain falls and how that will increase or adjust how much water comes through Hamilton County and then eventually head towards Indianapolis. But in this bright blue, I'll zoom in a little bit closer, In this bright blue, we have places that are approaching 3-inch per hour rainfall rates. You see that purple right there too? That just popped up. So this would be on the kind of the northeast side of Lafayette. This would be near Prophetstown State Park, where we're getting that report about 3-inch per hour rainfall rates that are coming down, maybe even close to 4. I mean, that's actually pretty crazy, talking about how much rain is falling in an hour. Then I go ahead and just show you what has fallen already. So that's per hour, right? But it's been storming here for a little bit. So how much has fallen? Well, I'll go back up to the north. We'll zoom in and you can see where that orange color is. This is a radar estimation. You know, we've gotten about an hour's worth of rainfall and already 2 to 4 inches in spots. Around Lafayette specifically, getting close to Purdue. Get the time, we know the time. Let's get you rainfall rate, about 3.5 inches or so around Lafayette and West Lafayette. So already 3 inches coming down. And you can see there's more rain out towards the west right now that is streaming behind this. So you get a wall of water and then it doesn't really stop. It may lighten up a little bit, but when I say lighten up, I mean go from 3-inch per hour rainfall rates down to 1, which is still very heavy rain, of course. But that's all surging to the east. Let's go ahead and check on some of the rain, not just Tippecanoe County, but eastbound, closer to where we already have some of the flooding. This is Tipton County. Tipton would be right here. We've already picked up. Yellow color shows you 2 inches that has already fallen. So we already have had 2 inches up and down US 31, about 1 to 2 inches, just depending on where you are. That number will go up. Here's Morse. We're starting to get rain on the north end of Morse, the reservoir there, north of Noblesville. Farther eastbound, just this morning, we've already picked up about 1 inch or so around Muncie to Winchester to Lynn to Richmond. Cambridge City, we've kind of gotten the edge. We might have got a 1/4 inch or so of rain. Not that any additional rain is good, but it did kind of clip us in Wayne County. The heaviest storms, the biggest storms, are back off towards the west. So if we go back to normal radar, you can kind of see that too. That storm that clipped Wayne County is now mainly into Union County, skimming Liberty and the north end of Brookville Lake. This thing is headed out towards Ohio. But when you look off to the north and west, yes, we're getting a break, kind of, in some of our flooding areas. There's more rain about to come in. So let's go ahead and time some of that out. I'm going to use that estimation Sean had of about 35 miles per hour, give you a kind of rough estimate. It may meander between 30 to 35, but still the estimated time for you for additional rainfall for eastern Indiana. I'll click the button, here we go. So clipping Carmel here in about 20 minutes, just before the 3 o'clock hour. Fishers just after 3. Newcastle, 3:11. And then you're getting back to Richmond and Centerville and Cambridge City within the 3 o'clock hour. I mean, this is just about an hour from now. We're going to be talking about more heavy rain headed into eastern Indiana from Newcastle up and down Wilbur Wright Road to Economy. Economy had some of the most rain in the state. Cambridge City and Richmond, I would say most likely just about 3:30 to just after 3:30, and then it will continue to push in. After, this is the leading edge, but look how much rain there is. So I'll zoom out, show you this whole wave that's forming. The heaviest rain is on the leading edge, the south side, but once that comes through, you still have some moderate rainfall and sometimes even heavy. I do think some of the storms out west, once you get the wall of water, you still have a lot of heavy rain. Farther east right now, we'll see how this trends. You're going to get this wall of water first, but then you're still going to get some showers and some decent rain for a few more hours, but it's definitely a little bit heavier out towards the west. And I've had a lot of questions. How is this happening? Why is this happening? And just to kind of show you, I kind of have this white, oh, I got to close this. Hold on, let's not close the line. There we go. So here's this line. There's essentially, almost you could consider it a little crack in the atmosphere. What's going on is you have this low-level drought, this big southerly wind that blows in more humidity, hits this line, it compresses the atmosphere, it squeezes the atmosphere, and it creates storms. So what's happening is you create storms near this line, and then they send them south. Now, it does look like some of the firing zone is starting to shift south, too. So that's what we've kind of been noticing for the past, I'd say 24 hours, is where is this starting point going to be? And it looks like the starting point may be moving just a little bit farther south, too. But we're going to be watching a lot of lightning, very heavy rain come in all across central Indiana. This is something that Sean and I will watch all morning. It does look like, Sean, just very slightly, that the lightning count is going down for some of these western storms, but it's still prolific lightning. For example, when I go to the radar, I'll kind of give you an example. Let's just go over Tippecanoe County, how much lightning may be popping up there. Earlier this morning, I had about 500 lightning strikes. Now we're down to between 200, 300, 400. So a small difference, but a difference nonetheless. Also, the storm is starting to leave Tippecanoe County, so there's kind of cheating a little bit. But we are watching the storm maybe weaken. But Sean, even though the wind may be weakening, the rain is not. The rain is still very heavy coming down, and it's pushing south and east. It looks like it's just, Sean, about to enter Crawfordsville.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, Matt, you showed this graphic on Sunrise yesterday, and sometimes we talk about the severe weather outlook, and unfortunately, we've been having to show you the excessive rain outlook and why that's important. There are various levels of this. It's not on a 5 scale. This one's on a 4 scale. We're at 3 today. And what does that mean? Numerous flash floods, not possible, likely. Life-threatening flooding is possible. Flash flood emergencies possible as well. And that is exactly where we're seeing the heaviest of rainfall here this morning. Okay, been a long week, and unfortunately we've got a ways to go here. I hate to say it, but I was just sneaking a look at some of the stuff for tomorrow, and we'll tackle that, but just know that we may have another complex coming at us on Saturday. Here's I-65. I've got this camera. This is 31 at State Road 38 there near Westfield. And that camera is looking northeast. So that one's looking into the line of storms that's over the northern portion of Hamilton County here this morning. So let me show you the latest radar. Bear with me here. Get this thing repositioned. And there you go. So it's looking into that heavy storm that has prompted flash flood warnings. Matt talked about the new ones that have been issued there. So the new flash flood warning for Tipton and Kokomo and Rossville. And we're going to see an extension of that for Madison County. Madison County already, at least portions of, along the White River under record crest there at Anderson. So we've tried to stress, it looks like we got a new severe thunderstorm warning here, partner.
Yep.
So let's get the update on that. That's going to be for parts of Boone, parts of Montgomery, Tippecanoe, technically until 3:15 for the potential of 60-mile-per-hour wind. I've had a lot of people on social media asking about tornadoes. Could we see a brief tornado this morning embedded within all this? Yes, we could. We've been trying to stress that flooding is our highest concern and what is the most likely to impact your area this morning. The movement, and we thought this might happen, but it has increased. So at 40 miles per hour now. So let's make that adjustment in the system. Going to do a track. I'm just going to track the whole line, and then we'll get into the particulars of the wind here. But southeast. So again, we're talking. If you live in Marion County, between 3:30 and 4. Going to get the northern suburbs first, and then work toward the southeast here. All right, so we are going to have a very busy morning. This is going to be a very messy commute that is probably going to require a lot of folks to get up and then figure out whether or not their route to work it will be impacted by flooded roads. We are going to have street flooding. At minimum in the metro, we are going to have all kinds of street flooding. At worst, we are going to have significant flash flooding. So that's what's on the table for us here this morning as we're coming up less than quarter till 3 a.m. here on this Friday morning. So there's the ETAs. Let's strip that away here and get into the wind field. We were worried about the cold pool, if you will, that wind surge that was blasting down here. So let me just query some of this. And so that's a little bit stronger there, Matt.
Yeah, it is.
Just a little bit. And it's also closer to the radar. So the radar beam is hitting it in the lower portion of the atmosphere, and why that's important is that versus when it was, farther to the northwest, we were hitting up higher in the storm. This has higher potential to get to the ground. So we said flooding's the concern, but we have already seen that this storm axis, storm line, has had some wind damage with it. So that is that's a potential, that's possibility there. There's Darlington. There's 47. So that thing's surging out, heading towards Shenandoah. May impact Crawfordsville. So we're seeing that cold pull, that wind surge out to the southeast here. So we may get, let me put a warning back. Let's just show you the warnings that we have. The severe thunderstorm warning does not include Lebanon technically. This may be expanded if this thing holds together. If this wind surge continues to hold together, this would get expanded into parts of Hendricks County. All right, severe thunderstorm warning in addition to the wall of red. We said that we would get half of our area under a flash flood warning, and that process is in the beginning stages, as we've got flash flood warnings that extend from Fowler and Attica and Lafayette all the way over to Frankfort and Kipton there, Matt.
Yes. So let's do, I'll zoom out, and then I want to do kind of a quick county by county look. So if you're waking up, you think, okay, what about my county? I see a bunch of stuff on the radar. I see the warnings. I see the watches. Once again, you can still see the red showing you the flash flood warnings, and the yellow showing you that severe thunderstorm warning for the wind that's coming into Montgomery and western Boone County. It looks like the wind surge is just now arriving into Crawfordsville. So that would be Wabash College, anywhere from Manchester to Garfield to Smartsburg, and then Lindsborg, Whitesville, and Newmarket. You're going to be next in some of the highest winds, and eventually pushing south towards Parkersburg and Rochdale and Ladoga. So that's more Montgomery, western Boone County. So western Boone County, we'll be talking about Dover and Shenandoah and Thorntown, kind of there by the county line. But you see this whole wave of heavy rain and lightning. I would say if you have to list the threats, flooding and rain, of course, is the number one. Sean was talking about that. Number two, we do have a lot of lightning. So please be careful as you are headed out. And that's one thing that we are telling reporters when they're out there in the field to stay safe. They want to show you stuff, but we also need to keep them safe as well. Number three would be some of the wind. Not everyone has a bunch of wind though. So we're going down the scale. We do have that severe thunderstorm warning for that gust that's going right through Montgomery County. We'll take a look at that. And then kind of a tie for, I guess, maybe fourth or fifth place, small rotations. Some of our severe thunderstorm warnings have had these tags called tornado possible, which means there's tiny rotations. We'll see what this wind surge does. Sometimes it can wrap on itself just a little bit. And then also tying for fourth or fifth place, there's been a small bit of hail, and I'll show you some of that as well. But let's go ahead and zoom in, and we'll do a quick county by county look. I'll start in Marion County. Marion County, we are watching this storm come through Crawfordsville right now. It's coming down 74. It's also coming right down 65. It'll likely be here within about an hour or so, hour and a half. This thing might be speeding up, so it might be more of an hour. But right now we're dry. If you go westbound to Hendricks County right now, we're still dry, but you can see that lightning show that's off towards the west. And in fact, when we time it out just for Hendricks County, I'll get you some timings. You can see Brownsburg 335, Plainfield 347, so about 340 for Avon. This will start towards Tri-West, and then it'll come right down 74 to Green Street, up and down in Brownsburg, Plainfield, Danville. You're going to be with this storm next. So that's Hendricks County. You're going to have some wind, and then you're going to get a lot of water. Farther westbound, let's say Putnam County, you're going to get some of this storm. Let me go ahead and back that up. Let's time that out for you guys. Pushing south towards the Greencastle area. It might be here in the next 45 minutes to an hour around Greencastle. Take us a little bit longer farther south towards Cloverdale. Might be closer to the 4 o'clock hour. By 4 o'clock, we'll be on our newscast on Channel 13. Montgomery County right now, we are in the thick of it. Timing it out for the rest of the county, though. It's already in Crawfordsville. Ladoga, you'll be next. You can see Ladoga here at 307. You got Browns Valley, 302. And right there at the airport, arriving in the next minute or two. It's mainly towards the north, closer to Wabash College, but it will be at the airport here shortly as well. So zooming back out, let's go to Boone County. Boone County, you're also included in this severe thunderstorm warning, the western side of the county. Timing this for you guys as well. This is a super rough timing. Thorntown in the next couple of minutes, you can see this thing. I mean, here's the other thing. You may not have the storm. You can see the storm. We can see it from Indianapolis. But you're talking about Advance, 307, Lebanon, 314, Pittsburgh. I know we're getting more towards Hendricks County there, but that time is 327. You got Waugh. You're basically between Lebanon and headed out toward the north side of Zionsville and eventually towards Westfield. But you can see 323 for you guys. We back out a little bit again. Let's do Hamilton County. Hamilton County, we already have a thunderstorm right now that is actively pushing through the northern and northeast side. So Noblesville, around Morse and Cicero, very heavy rain. Noblesville, we're just starting to get some of that rain. A lot of it is just east of you guys, kind of closer to Lapel and Perkinsville. Here's Stony Creek. We've got some of that heavy rain already over us too. If you go south a little bit, you see Fisher's, Hardscrabble, Stony Creek. We're close. We've got these storms that are right on our doorstep right now. Farther west in the county, let's say Westfield and Carmel. Not sure if we'll get hit by this first part, but if I can time out the other part of the storm coming eventually in towards you guys. You can see the timing here. Carmel 343, Fisher's 352. So close to the 4 o'clock hour, but I'd say maybe even within the next 45 minutes, your storm is going to be getting a little bit closer. And then Marion County around Lawrence would be about 4 o'clock. Zooming back out again, some counties that are already in it, Clinton County, very heavy rain. We have that new flash flood warning that's in effect right now, as we've already picked up an inch or so of rainfall. We have the rain around Tippecanoe County. It is starting to lighten around Lafayette, but the problem is when you zoom out, look what's all headed your way. I mean, there's more heavy rain out towards the west, but the absolute heaviest rainfall rates have now pushed to the south. This shows you the rainfall rates that are out there this morning. The blue color showing you where you're getting 2 inches per hour. The bright blue and getting near purple, that's about 3 inches per hour. So we're already getting that rainfall rate now coming into Crawfordsville and Frankfort, just so heavy. And is there?
Wow.
What you got, Sean?
So I've got NDOT2. If you
Yeah.
punch, you can punch up NDOT2 if you want. But this is near Thorntown.
Oh, wow.
Looking northwest. And the reason I said whoa, because we just had a lightning flash, and the whole screen went just this bright white. So it must have been very close to. But that particular camera is looking into the storm line, which is not far from Thorntown. Going to be on. I mean, it's going to be on this camera in the next 5 minutes. Then this is in Crawfordsville, actually right on the western edge of the severe thunderstorm warning. Probably going to miss the strongest wind with it, Matt, but I kind of positioned these cameras. Just let that one in Thorntown. That's going to be interesting to monitor here over the next 10 minutes to see that change as that storm starts to buckle that way.
And Sean, we've gotten this question for some areas, and I'm going to play devil's advocate with you. Why are you talking about rain so much? What's the big deal? Places that haven't gotten flooding, why am I concerned?
Well, I'm just going to tell you that we are going to have, so let's do it this way. So here we are at 2:55. I would say by the time we get to 4:30, the majority of this map right here is going to be in red, meaning just about half of our viewing area, if not more, including the metro area, likely will be under a flash flood warning. As I said, we are going to have street flooding galore around the metro on the early portion of this commute. But we're just going to see a bunch of flash flood warnings. Now, what's going to be interesting is that some of these may get tagged with considerable. That'll set off the phones. And it's possible, depending on how this whole thing evolves here throughout the morning, as the movement is east and southeast, we could get into, we can't completely rule out flash flood emergency type of warnings, which up until 2 days ago, the Weather Service office in Indianapolis had never issued one, and they issued a total of 3, all in one morning.
Sure.
So That's what we're looking at here. But yes, approaching the metro area rather quickly. Heck, it might even reach downtown before 4 o'clock. We were saying 4. It's going to be close. Either way, folks are going to start to hear this thunder. It's going to wake them up. And we're going to be in a whole slew of flash flood warnings here. We will be mindful of and still kind of look at radar for quick rotation. I don't see that, partner. I think I think what we're going to be dealing with, and the radar. Rob and I have been thinking why it does, but you can see those the brightness coming in there to Thorntown and Darlington, and buckling toward Lebanon too. We'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, Lebanon's not technically in the warning, but Sean, I would be prepared for some wind.
Yeah,
you know, it's coming right towards you.
Yep.
There could be an adjustment there.
Yeah.
While you were talking, we got a flash flood report from Cass County, just south of Logansport. There's multiple areas of water. You can read it with me. Over State Road 218 in the area of 500 East. So you're a little bit south of Logansport. You're south of the Wabash. This map also shows you the flood report that we had closer to midnight because these storms started up north earlier. A basement wall collapsed in a home, and so estimated time on radar is just after midnight. And so many families keep having to go back down to the basement because of the extreme flooding that we've had. Folks still have water in their basements out east, and I'm afraid that folks out west are going to have more water in their basements as well. This map shows you how much rain has fallen just tonight. And I'm talking about the storms we had earlier. They were more south towards Bloomington and Columbus yesterday afternoon and evening. This is just the rain throughout the overnight hours. You can also see some storm reports. We've had some hail. We've had a couple limbs down. We have a couple trees down because there has been some wind. And the other problem too is that the ground is really wet. It's saturated. It's not nice and firm as much, depending on where you are. That helps trees tip over a little bit more easily once you loosen the ground up with a bunch of water. So that's why we're getting, even though the winds aren't really that crazy. I mean, we do have one severe thunderstorm warning with 60-mile-per-hour winds, and I'll show you that in a moment. But the ground is wet, and so that may tip over some more trees. This color map, what you're looking at, kind of ignore the scale up here. You're just looking at how much rainfall you have picked up. The yellow colors show you where we have picked up 2 inches or more. And in the orange areas, that's 3 inches. So we have place getting about 3 inches or so estimated by the radar around Lafayette. Now, if you zoom into Tipton County and northern Hamilton County, we've also had 2 to 3 inches from Kempton south to Arcadia. And here would be Tipton. So even on the south side of Tipton, we have some of that very heavy rain. Here's Windfall City up and down State Road 19, up and down 31 is where we have some of that heaviest rain. Here's Atlanta and East Union. There's Hobbs. These are the surrounding areas around Tipton, and I think we were doing really well with our crops there around Tipton, but now, you know, we'll see how this heavy rain goes. There's some fields that are still covered in water out in eastern Indiana. Farther west, we have a good 1 to 3+ inches now that have already fallen around places like Park and Fountain and Vermilion counties. Here's Tippecanoe County with some of the heaviest rain, and now coming into Clinton County too. Look around Clinton County, just north of west of the hot dogs this morning. We've got some 3-inch rainfall coming in there on the northwest side of town. This would be US 421 towards Maddox Corner, just west of Moran, up and down 75 as well, out towards 38 to Mulberry, some of that heavy rain too. Well, let me switch back over to the radar. Let's do kind of a wide look. So here's what's going on. If you're just tuning in with us this morning, maybe you woke up way earlier than wanted to because of all the lightning out there. Well, here's what's going on. We have this wave of rain and storms that's just sitting over north central and central Indiana. And gradually what it's doing is it's trying to find new air that hasn't been used yet. So you see this slow progression to our south and east. Every once in a while along the leading edge, it'll speed up for a second with some gusty winds. But overall moving about 30 miles per hour to the south and east, but every once in a while you get this wind surge and you can get 40-mile-per-hour speed for a second. So this will gradually move south and east. Here's Indy. You can see the lightning from Indianapolis right now, although there has been some weakening in some of the lightning in that storm coming into Tippecanoe County. This is a loop just over the past 3 hours since midnight. And so they are moving. The problem, though, is on the back end, there's still more rain that's falling. So you get this wall of water first, a lot of lightning, maybe some wind, and then the rain just keeps on coming. Right now, our biggest storm, our heaviest storm with the most amount of rain is the one coming into Tippecanoe County around Lafayette. So the rest of the morning, how this will play out is that gradually we'll see the heaviest rain push south and east, so Indianapolis, and we may even get it towards Greenwood and out east to Greenfield and Shelbyville. And I do think eastern Indiana, we already had a quick storm. We're starting to see more of that rain come back in, and there may be some lightning that's growing on that storm too, just now coming into Madison County. Let me turn on Max Doppler, Live Doppler 13. I'll zoom back in for you. Here's Madison County. Once again, you got the White River that is now at record height in Anderson. We have a crew headed to Anderson right now trying to show us the water levels there in Anderson. Evacuations have been underway for a day or two now. Now that heavy rain is coming in, and don't be surprised if a new flash flood warning comes out for Madison County. We have one for northeastern Madison County, just kind of outside of Alexandria. But Anderson and Pendleton, that rain is really coming down, and there's a lot of lightning there on the west side of Anderson coming up towards the college, Anderson University, and it's going to spread eastbound. Pendleton, heavy rains picking up for you guys, and this will continue to the south and east. Eventually, I think we'll be getting it closer to Newcastle and Spiceland, and I can time that out. This part of the storm is a little bit slower, so I may go down to 30 miles per hour. This is just a rough estimate coming south and east. Let's push this storm through Henry County, which we don't need more of that rain, but you can see the times. Newcastle here in about 30 minutes, Millville 3:45, Spiceland on the other side of the interstate 3:52, and then you're getting more towards Wayne County, Cambridge City 4 o'clock, Centerville 4:15. So just about an hour from now, we'll start getting this closer to western Wayne County, where we had the most amount of rain from this week's storms. This storm, what do you see, Sean? You see
I don't like the look of the radar. I
bad.
think getting to your point, that's all going to kind of pivot toward. I mean, the metro is going to get it, but I'm concerned now that what you're showing there over Madison County.
Sure.
That's like you said, that's going to be heading to East Central.
So this is what Sean's talking about. So we are moving south and east, but when you look at the whole storm, it's not just these little cells that are moving south and east. What Sean's talking about, there's this overall flow that's kind of south and then east. And so this is what Sean's talking about.
Yeah.
You're taking things and kind of swinging them. I mean, they may not stay the true trajectory the whole time. They change. They change their position and speed and the direction they're going a little bit over time. And there's this overall swing to the east. And so instead of just kind of having tracks to the south and east, for example, this warning, you can see where it's going south and east. These storms in Madison County are kind of now drifting eastbound. I would say even more east-southeast.
Yeah.
And so when you look at that, for example,
That means it takes longer to get out of it too.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because look what's all to your west. If these things go, if you took this and you just pushed it east, look what all you would have to go through. If you just put it straight south, okay, a lot of water, but not as bad because the storm is skinny. But if you go along the axis, it's going to be a long, long morning. So, for example, this storm that's coming towards Indianapolis, timing it out, you can see Brownsburg 3:45, Speedway about 4 o'clock, Indianapolis just a little bit after 4 o'clock, okay? But you can see the track southeast. What Sean's talking about is that these storms up to the north and east have a little bit more of an easterly track, right? I mean, there's a little bit of a southerly component to it, but it's more moving east now. It is starting to swing. And so you see Richmond 4:30-ish, Cambridge City after the 4 o'clock hour, about 4:15, we think for Centerville and Hagerstown and Fountain City, Lynn at 3:55 there in southern Randolph County. You see Hagerstown, there's 3:50 right now. So basically the 4 o'clock hour is when these things may start to swing in to the east. And Sean, when you go wide,
Yep.
you go wide. I mean, this thing's very long, right?
Yep.
So if you start making that turn, and you can kind of see that with the flash flood warnings, they're just this strip.
It's like it's like a water hose, man.
It is a water hose.
NDOT 2, I've got a shelf
Yep.
cloud. That's the camera is just south of State Road 47, so it's in between Lebanon and Thorntown. So I had to go a little farther south. We lost that camera in Thorntown. This is looking toward the north, And when you get some decent lightning strikes, you'll see a little bit of lowering in the cloud. And it's the shelf cloud that's coming from the storm. And usually when you see that kind of configuration, you can expect within a matter of about 15 minutes or less that you're going to get a big rush of rain-cooled air, and then eventually that's going to be followed up by the blast of water here. So we'll see if we get an extension of the severe thunderstorm warning. It doesn't matter. Again, our number one concern this morning is going to be for widespread flash flooding. And this thing is coming right down the pike, right at the metro area. We had downtown Indianapolis at 4 a.m. and that time it looks like, let's see, we probably should do another track here just to double check here. Had it at 40. And we'll get into downtown and beyond, by the way, because this is going to continue to move in southeast here. So, roughly Indianapolis at the top of the hour. That's for downtown Indy. Northwest burbs are going to be in it here in the next half hour. What we're talking about here is very, very heavy rain, and heavy rain that may last for a bit. And that's the concern that we are going to have, not only for the metro area. Obviously, we've got we got the historic, those in east central Indiana that had to deal with the historic flooding. That's all heading your way here. All right, so this is, we were concerned coming into this morning, and I think those fears are unfortunately materializing. Now, as we show you that radar sequence here, and as we've tried to explain to you, this is not moving very quickly. I mean, the leading edge is moving at 40 miles per hour, but the problem is, as Matt and I are trying to explain, is that this thing, once it gets in here, we are going to, we're going to see a duration of some very, very heavy rain right in that swath there. Unfortunately, that will include Cambridge City. That will include Hagerstown. That's going to include Connorsville, Wayne County. So areas that, Henry County and Delaware and unfortunately Madison counties. So we're going to see more and more flash flood warnings issued with this, and quite a bit of street flooding here in the metro area. Now I do want to so we're going to look at our real-time radar, and now this is the high-res model product, and the reason why we're not going to be able to use this right off the bat is that you can see, I think it's a little bit too far to the north, but this will give us an idea of how the configuration will look this morning, okay? So again, it's not doing a great job overall right now, I don't think. But the idea is that we're going to have a very wet, stormy start. Now, it may wink it as it gets a little farther south. And then we're going to be done for a little bit. And then we'll have to worry about what's ahead for tomorrow. All right, so that's just kind of setting the overall stage here as the next few hours, probably into about 7 o'clock, we're going to start to see way more flash flood warnings here. Okay, I want to show you the rainfall estimates over the last. Well, that's the storm reports over the last hour. Here's the 1 hour rainfall, and this is what also concerns us as well. So radar picking up on look at that, Matt, over 3 inches, 3.5 inches, 1 hour radar rain estimate there.
Is that the heaviest rain we have right now?
That's about as heavy as that I've seen so far with the setup here this morning. Yeah, that's what that northern Hamilton County. So if you're just waking up to the rolling thunder, this is what we have. So we got a whole bunch of flash flood warnings from Randolph into Delaware, most of Tipton and Howard, and then this goes all the way back to the Illinois state line. There's the severe thunderstorm warning. Okay, let's look at the radar wind field again. It's beginning to blow through Advance and then near Lebanon. All right, so let's take a look at our cameras. Once again, we'll give you, so that's in Crawfordsville, where you can see the rain pounding the pavement there. And this is our camera. We said it would change in about 15 minutes, and there you go.
Hey, go back to the first one. Do you see all that water that's sitting there? The storm drains may be full.
Yep.
Look at there towards the sidewalk on the
yeah.
left-hand side.
Yeah, so this will be the urban street flooding.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole bunch of that, and I will tell you, I'm glad you mentioned the drains, because as I've kind of walked around the neighborhood every now and then,
Sure.
you look, or even just driving the car.
Oh, sure.
A lot of the drains are still kind of covered up,
Yes, they are.
and that can impact how this runoff occurs.
I was just talking with our producers,
Yep.
so we have another person coming in, and Sean, if you want to readjust, we can talk too. So we have crew in Anderson that's going to give us some updates
Yep.
through our newscast starting at 4 o'clock for the river cresting. We may be sending a crew to Newcastle. It looks like that biggest storm with the heaviest rain that you're talking about that's going to Madison County.
Yeah.
Looks like it's kind of headed towards Henry County.
Okay.
But we have another crew ready to be deployed here in Indianapolis,
Yeah.
because those heavy downpours are coming in. And Sean, when you zoom out, and so this scene that you see in Crawfordsville, that's easily going to be the scene in Indianapolis. The problem for Indy, though, is when you zoom out, there's still a lot of rain left to go that's back off towards the west right now. And if you start getting more of an easterly tilt with some of this, a lot of rain is coming towards the Indianapolis area. I can't tell you what side of Indy is going to be the wettest by the end of the day, but I do think there's going to be a lot of water around Indy, and we call it the donut. All the towns and counties that are around Indianapolis are about to get soaked. We have some of those downpours. Looks like they're just now crossing along 69. They're just past Campus Parkway near Southeastern, Hamilton Southeastern Schools. Very heavy rain for you guys, and more heavy rain back west. That's just now getting into the Tri-West School area. That would be Boone County. My goodness, there's a lot of rain coming down in Crawfordsville.
Yeah.
And Crawfordsville's not done. We may see it lighten up in a second, but then, Sean, there's still a lot of heavy rain back off towards the west of Crawfordsville too that may be coming in.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, let's do that. Let's put the radar in. And guys, you're on Max 1, yeah, Matt?
Max 4, I think.
Yeah. Oh, Matt's on Max 4, FYI there. So yeah, let's just put this radar in motion, and actually, probably let's show a broader perspective too of how far back this is all going. Now, I don't know if this is a short-term trend, but the lightning intensity looks like it's lessening a little bit.
We saw that Wednesday morning, and Sean
Okay.
was thinking the same thing. The problem, though, is the rain didn't stop. Once we had the lightning go down, our severe thunderstorm warnings went away. And did that one just go away? The one for out west of Montgomery County and Boone County, was that deactivated?
I bet so.
Okay.
Stand by here.
So if this is anything, Sean's looking up just to verify. I'm looking at the map with you. We remember on Wednesday, confirm?
No.
Is it still there?
Let's see, that was 306. Oh, it may have just been expired in
Oh,
general.
okay. It is 3:15. They like
there
to
you
kinda
go.
do the quarter hours.
Yeah, copy that.
Okay. But Sean, just to talk about Wednesday for a second, when we saw the lightning go down, we didn't see the rain stop. We didn't have any more wind to worry about. Plus, we didn't have as much rotation to worry about anymore. It became strictly a rain event. So, Sean, if this continues to head in that direction, I mean, no storm system's the same, but it doesn't mean the rain's stopping. But hopefully, we don't have to worry about wind as much as we were, or rotations as much, but we'll still watch for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to do a track here, Matt, because listen, I know a lot of people that, and it's just, we got to be honest, man. It's heading that way, and I hate that we have to do a track on this, but we have to.
Yeah, you do.
So if we do southeast. So this is ballpark ETAs, 421 there in Richmond, and Cambridge City. If this holds, you're going to be in some rain by 4 o'clock. Any rain's not welcome. Now, Lindsay Monroe was able to go over there yesterday. I don't know if folks saw her video, heartbreaking video. So the flash flooding over there obviously had subsided. And the damage, unfortunately, already done. Significant damage to a lot of businesses and homes in Cambridge City. But it won't take a lot to cause flash flooding over there this morning. And so that's their ETA. Muncie, Spiceland at 347. All right, so we haven't, of late, we haven't had a bunch of wind reports just yet. It is just it's going to be the volume of water that's going to be our main thing here this morning. All right, main thing. Now for our crews, they're going to have to be mindful that we do have a lightning. So
We do a lot.
as we get
lot.
as we get close to the top of the hour, and for our producers, by the way, some of these live shots could be in jeopardy at the early portion of the coverage here at 4 a.m. But there you go. This bad boy's coming in. Listen, I would love for this thing to pick up speed and just get through the metro and get out of the state as quick as possible. Until that happens here. And this is the one thing I didn't want to see either, this northwest to southeast configuration here, Matt.
Right there, yep.
Right,
Right there.
That's going to be pointing at, you just don't, because then you get in it and you're in it. You know what I mean? It's not moving quickly to the south. I'll pitch it back to you, boss man, and I'll look over, see if we get any new storm reports.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Sean. So he's going to look at the storm reports because some of those have been coming in. We've had some more water covering new roads that haven't been covered yet, and that may be continuing the case in our towns. We are going to be talking about more street flooding. Crawfordsville, we're already seeing the street flooding. But if we take this to max 4, I can show you a wide view and then we'll zoom back in and we'll kind of just go along the edge of the storms for a second and we'll take a look at each part. So this is what Sean's talking about. At first, they're kind of diving to the south and east, and some of them still are, but there's still an overall trend from west to east to push the rain. And when you go down the axis, that takes you a long way to get out of the water. This rain shield has grown to about 70 miles or so, now stretching all the way to Lake Michigan. So even places that are done with the absolute heaviest rain, so talking about you guys around Miami County, Cass County, White County, you may not get the downpours as much, but you're still watching moderate rain that's going to last for a while. We've already had flooding up in Cass County. But if we zoom in, let's take a look at those storms. We'll go from west to east across the state. So let me zoom in out west towards Vermilion and Fountain and Park counties. You're getting up and down the Wabash here. Very heavy rain coming down. Here's Petersburg, I-74, lots of rain. Farther south, Waveland into southern Montgomery County, rain for you. Here's a look at Putnam County. I'll take a closer look just with the timing for you guys. Let's time this out just for Putnam. Essentially, Greencastle, 355. You're talking about Brazil and Clay County, about 410. And then Rockville, first we'll get it. I mean, that's 322. That's in the next couple of minutes. And Mooresville, 419. So we'll be watching it come across Montgomery County there. Let's go a little bit farther. Or Putnam County there. Let's head into Hendricks County. Rain's now just arriving at Tri-West, coming into Pittsboro, Brownsburg. You're going to be next. Timing this out for you guys. Let's put this through. This estimated time, Brownsburg about 3:30. I mean, it's coming down the interstate. You can see it. Danville 3:35. Avon a little bit later for us, 3:42-ish, 3:50. We're starting to get towards the airport, center of the radar area. That's coming up at 3:54. So just about the 4 o'clock hour is when we expect a lot of this heavy rain to be moving in. Here's Lebanon and Boone County. We're right on the edge of the storm. Heavier on the west side, but that is spread eastbound. Headed Northfield and Whitestown and Zionsville here within the next 10 to 15 minutes. Hamilton County, it's kind of cut in half right now. The northeast side, Noblesville up to Perkinsville. Here's LaPel and Madison County. Very heavy rain. And speaking of that heavy rain, Sean was just looking at the rainfall rates, and the absolute heaviest rain right now is that rainfall rate is right now in northern and eastern Hamilton County, southern Tipton County. We've picked up 3+ inches now just the past hour. This is even your total. That's spread east towards LaPel and Anderson. So we'll have to watch that. I'll send it back to the radar. Let's zoom back in to Hamilton County. Here's Carmel. Still waiting on the rain. You've got Westfield about here. watching on some of the rain. It's very loud out there. It's noisy. It's bright too. You're watching the storms as you get closer. Fisher's still mainly dry, but as soon as you get past Hamilton Southeastern, you're on 69. You cross the state line. You get past Hardscrabble. Coming up to Pendleton, super heavy rain. Here's closer to Yorktown, getting that heavy rain too. Here's the rest of Madison County. It is just absolutely coming down. Where you have the most lightning and where the radar is, of course, the most red or even a little bit of pink, that's where you have the heaviest rain right now. Just to check, we've had it at times, see if there's any hail. Looks like we might have small pea-sized hail coming in around Anderson, and we've got a crew headed to Anderson this morning. But otherwise, when I'm zooming out, I don't see as much hail. We had hail earlier. Check this out. We had some hail across northeastern Hamilton County, up to about quarter to ping pong ball-sized hail just north of Morse. This would be the Cicero area where we had some of that hail. But back to radar. Let's zoom in again. Sorry for the reset there. All right, let's zoom back in towards Delaware County, where, at least in Delaware County, we're kind of bypassing the heaviest rain. That's just a little bit farther to the south and west. That's in Anderson. I think that's going to dive a little bit more south and east. So southern Delaware County still getting absolutely soaked with some of the heaviest rain. But once you get towards, well, downtown Muncie and north, up towards Royerton, and there's Andersonville, DeSoto, and Logody. I mean, we're talking about moderate rain, not as heavy. Still, we don't need any rain at all. But I think the bulk of that heaviest rain is going to head more towards Daleville. Daleville's here, and then you've got Cowan and Oakville. Here's the Prairie Creek Reservoir. So the White River curves right above there, but the Prairie Creek Reservoir, we're going to get in on some of that heaviest rain, I think, too. And then you go south into Henry County, where I believe we may be sending a crew again. This is an evolving situation. We'll send crews as needed to different spots. If you all know anything that you see, you're saying, Matt, the water here is crazy. It's already going up X, Y, Z. Let us know, and that will kind of adjust where we send crews. I mean, this is kind of a breaking situation. We'll send them as needed. But Newcastle, we're seeing a couple downpours first, but I'm worried about this line that's going to be coming in here shortly. So just time it out for Newcastle, and I'll put a little bit in Wayne County too. Newcastle, 356. So here in about 20 to 30 minutes, you're going to be getting it. Let's just do Henry County. Get a couple more towns to pop up. Here's Kennard, 345, Shirley, 342. Here's Spiceland, just on the other side of the interstate, 358. And then Wilbur Wright Road, over by the airport, 402. And then you get to Millville, Louisville, and Hagerstown. You're eventually getting into Wayne County. You can see that about 4 o'clock hour, but Louisville's still technically in Henry County, 408, and that would be around kind of nearby Tri-High, Tri-Junior Senior High School, for some of that rain. Timing it out for Wayne County, because this is headed towards you guys next. Roughly pushing this towards Wayne. So Hagerstown back to the 4 o'clock hour. So Cambridge City, 423, Centerville, 436, somewhere in the 4 o'clock hour. And Richmond, maybe just after 4:30, getting close to 5 o'clock for some of this rain headed towards you. Now, we've had a couple pop-ups before the main line, so don't be surprised if you start getting wet before the time says. There'll be a couple little pop-up downpours at first, and then you'll get that main wave coming through. Farther north and east, here's Winchester. So we're talking about Randolph County. More steady rain. It's not as heavy. I don't have as much lightning. You probably will hear some rolling thunder, but we still have that flash flood warning because we had a storm come already through. So we don't need any more rain. Of course, we were one of the wettest counties, but we still have some moderate rain up and down US 27 coming into Lynn and Winchester. We have some of that rain that's pretty moderate right now. Here's Indianapolis. Let's time her out. This thing is now arriving into Brownsburg. This thing may be picking up speed just a little bit. But time this through Indianapolis and the surrounding areas. See Brownsburg now, basically. Zionsville in a couple minutes. Plainfield, 344. Meridian Hills, here you're at 351. Indy, close to 4 o'clock. McCoursville, 414. And Greenwood, now in northern Johnson County, just crossed past Southport, 418 for the arrival for you guys. Farther south, you guys are tuning in from Morgan County, or you're around Johnson County or Shelby County. Eventually these storms will come in. Time is a little bit more wonky because look how over time they're not going as much south. They are starting to push eastbound. And so when you start going east, then you have to go all the way through this. So if you're sitting around Zionsville or Carmel, you're going to get this wave. But then if this storm continues to turn, we've been seeing this happen here for a while now. Let me pull up a little drawing tool for us. Let me put a little arrow. So over time, we're kind of seeing this trend. They go south, and then they start moving east. And that's kind of along this boundary that's been setting up. There's a stationary front that's sitting right over in Indianapolis, and what's happening is the storms get there, and then they just want to train along that. And so if you continue that arrow, that means we've got this wall of water that's going east, and I am worried about eastern Indiana because, yeah, we are going to get some of these storms, but then if this trend continues, we may get some of this rain to just come at us. Instead of really headed super south, I mean, we may eventually get wet later this morning around Bloomington and Columbus, but if this trend continues, everything's just going east. I mean, I may have to draw all these, you know, we do the storm track. We may have to just draw them going eastbound, right into Indy, right into Greenfield, right into Newcastle. So very heavy rain for us. I want to show you how much rainfall we picked up. And I tell you what, here in a few minutes, we'll have to pause the stream. The stream will still go on, but we'll go to radar because Sean and I will get ready for the newscast. That's starting at 4 o'clock. So I've got to recap with our producers, make sure everything's going okay, and we'll get that ready. Got to finish up the 7-day forecast too. Haven't been able to work on it much. I mean, we know it's daily rain chances, but I haven't been able to work on it much, to be honest, because there's just been so much rain and storms. We've been watching throughout the overnight hours. Rob was here all the way through 2 o'clock, and Sean and I have been here for a while now too. Now, this map shows you how much rain has fallen. The yellow color shows you 2 inches. The orange color shows you 3 inches. Notice how we have the streak of the heaviest rain from Lafayette right into Frankfort. This is Clinton County. And then right into Tipton and northern Hamilton counties. The heaviest rain right now looks to actually be for you guys around northern Hamilton and southern Tipton. This map shows you the 1 hour rainfall rate. So how much rain is falling every hour? Purple, 3 inches. And we have that. Cicero, just north, on the north end of Morse, up and down US 31, between Tipton and Noblesville, is where we have that heaviest rain. And that heavy rain is extending to the east right now, right into Anderson. Once again, we have a crew in Anderson that'll be giving us live updates on the river. It is cresting right now. This rain's not going to help. Now, what will happen for the rivers, they may actually go down a little bit, even though it's pouring. You'll get the flooding aerially, we call that, just on the ground, kind of everywhere. Then it will funnel back into the river. So we may see the river's crest, go slightly down, and then go up again. How much they go up again depends on how much water we pick up, especially if we start getting this easterly trend. We are still overall pushing south and east, but a little bit more east than south is the way to put it over time. So we'll see how these downpours really come at us, but we are concerned about the Indianapolis area. Indy can't take the water like some of our rural areas, and our rural areas can't take any more, but Indy cannot take this kind of rain that we picked up. We thought it was bad out east, and it is really bad, historic flooding. I mean, all of us here have family out east, and the flooding has just been horrendous. But this trend to the east to come right into Indianapolis is not looking good. I mean, look up down the line. We have all these flash flood warnings that are still in effect that are crossing the state line right now. To give you an active look at where the warnings are, a couple different colors for you. The dark green shows you the flood watch. That's in effect all across central Indiana. That's been extended and expanded. The neon green color shows you flood warnings. It may not be raining where you are, but you still have a flood warning because there's flooding out there. And then the red color shows you flash flooding. Flash flooding, we call it flash flooding because it floods in a flash. Waters quickly rise. I mean, some folks have told us they look out, water was down their porch a little bit, but then in a few minutes it was in their house. And so that's how quickly flash flooding can happen in just a few minutes. But we have flash flood warnings that continue for northern Hamilton County. Once again, that's where we have the absolute heaviest rain right now. Northern Hamilton, southern Tipton coming into Madison. Don't be surprised if Madison County around Anderson at any point we get a new flash flood warning. Flash flood warnings continue around Muncie into Winchester. Flash flood warnings out west, Howard County, parts of Boone County, and around Carroll counties. We're watching Tippecanoe County out towards Fountain County as well, and Benton County and Warren County. We have some of those warnings too. Back to the radar. We've been watching some wind, although we have seen the wind die down a little bit. There's still going to be a decent wind. We have it in Brownsburg. It is super breezy this morning. You're probably going to hear it. More wind coming in Indianapolis, but that's alongside all that water. When you go to the east, we're not seeing as much wind, which is good, but still a lot of heavy rain coming into Madison County right now. I'll take you back to the radar. This shows you some of the reports. We've had some hail at times throughout the overnight, and then very heavy rain right through Noblesville. I mean, this thing is just sitting here. You see the radar technically moving, but there's all these downpours out west. So from your perspective, if you're living in Noblesville and Cicero or Arcadia, we're just getting pounded and it just won't stop. Kempton, we're getting the heavy rain. Look at this heavy rain spike there in Lebanon. That's going eastbound right through Boone County. 421 north of Zionsville, we're getting wet, and it will just kind of come down 421 all the way into Zionsville in the next few minutes. Whitestown, we're getting soaked now, and this is all headed eastbound. Traders Point, you're going to be next. This is kind of near the Traders Point Creamery. If you know where that is, that's the heavy rain that's coming in. Brownsburg, especially north side, out towards Pittsboro and Liston, we're getting the heavy rain, and now it's coming up and down Green
There's
Street.
a new flash flood warning.
You got a new one? Okay.
Yep, got
Let me
the new
back
one.
this up.
You called it, and there it is, partner.
There it is, Hamilton County and Madison County. Let's zoom in, and I'll get some more information for you, too.
And, hey, while you're doing that,
Yeah.
you guys keep Matt up. All I'm
go.
going to do is just give you a couple of storm reports that have been in here. So Madison County EMA picked up a half an inch over the last hour, but said currently, so the rain rate there went up to over 3 inches in an hour. And then Purdue University picked up almost 2 inches.
Wow.
Mesonet at Purdue, almost 2 inches in 1 hour.
So, Sean, I'm populating just the past hour.
Yep.
That's what we're talking. He's talking about rainfall rate. How much rain falls in an hour?
So Ella Rhodes is
4.
about to embark. That's going to be her location this morning. And
Okay.
I stressed, hey, be careful heading up.
Yeah.
I told her you'd be in a flash flood warning. Unfortunately, there it is.
Yeah.
So we will get a perspective of what's ground like. We know the White River is at record stage, but now we've got flash flooding.
We have flash flooding. And, Sean, you can see how it started.
Yep.
You can see the evolution of that heaviest band. I mean, we're getting water everywhere, but its heaviest band has just streaked from Lafayette into Boone County, into Tipton and northern Hamilton counties, now spreading into Madison County. That's why you have the expansion of the flash flood warning. And Sean, I don't like, if this thing holds and more rain is back towards the west, you just hold this line, we're going to go back into some places that have already gotten absolutely soaked. So you can see, I think the heaviest rain may skim the south side of Muncie, but really Newcastle, Cambridge City, Lynn, Centerville, Richmond, Hagerstown, and out towards New Paris, Ohio, is where this heaviest core is trending right now.
Yeah, and we have someone going to Newcastle this morning, which they're going to be right in the crosshairs of that as well.
And then, Sean, there's another streak too. It looks like this one is crossing the Wabash. You can see that's coming into Crawfordsville. And the one thing I don't like is there is a ton of rain out west that's following this storm. So just roughly timing out that streak too. I mean, things will change. They don't cleanly just move like this all the time. They might meander, they might get bigger, they might get smaller, but just timing out that, once you have 2 inches or so, let's say, just timing that out, you can see we may have 2 inches on the ground in Brownsburg in just over an hour from now. Plainfield, Indy, we may have 2 inches on the ground sometime during our newscast. So that would put us between 5 to 6 o'clock. Somewhere maybe around 6 o'clock we may have 2 inches of water. Sean, what else are you seeing? Here in a few minutes, what we'll probably do is we'll do a pause. We got to get ready for the newscast. Do you see anything that you want to get out there?
No, listen, I think we've pounded the drum as much as we can here.
Okay.
And now it's just a matter of wait and see. It's just the big concern is flooding.
Yeah.
And we're going to have street flooding in the metro area, but I just don't like your radar loop there. It's just going right to an area that's, quite frankly, had a 1,000-year flood a couple days ago, and I just let's just hope that it just doesn't turn into something worse here.
And so we'll have it here on our newscast this morning. Once again, we have crews all across central Indiana. We've got you covered. We're going to have a lot of weather updates, of course. We're going to give you updates on search and rescues. We're going to give you updates on a lot of different things, how the rivers are doing, because that's the other thing. You know, some folks, you had any flooding, and then all of a sudden the river went up long after the rain stopped, and then you get flooding. So we have both. We have aerial flooding. That's what we call it when there's just flooding everywhere, you know, in the crop fields, in town. But then eventually it's focused in the rivers and the river banks. And if you live anywhere near some of these river banks, we probably have had some evacuations depending on the town and depending on the river. But it's been an absolute mess. So we're going to wrap things here. Control room, what we'll do is on the stream, you can leave up, I believe, max 3 and still have the radar up. And we'll be live on Channel 13 on NBC here this morning starting at 4 o'clock. We'll get you ready for that. Once again, Sean Astor and I here watching the heavy, heavy rain coming down. Once it starts, it doesn't stop for a while, and that's why we have that continued flash flooding threat. We're going to see more flash flood warnings across central Indiana, and we'll let you know about each one. Make sure you keep it here, keep it local. As always, we'll keep you advised.